one semifinal is done, and there is one to go. The Solar Scarabs and the Tartarus Titans about to go head-to-head in our second best-of-5 of the day here in the SPL Season 9 Kickoff Tournament. Already seen one set today, the Atlantis Leviathans besting the Jade Dragons 3-0. Some might say expected, maybe expecting a little bit more pushback for the Jade Dragons, showing us that they'll definitely have some strength moving forward here in Season 9, though they will not be continuing on this weekend in this tournament. Trelly really is with me for our second set of the day here on the desk. And Trelly, now the Leviathans awaiting one of these two teams between the Titans and the Solar Scarabs. And, you know, before we really sink our teeth into this matchup, I'm wondering what the tone of this set is going to be. We had some high kill games for both of these two teams yesterday.
Oh, yeah. A bit of a clown fiesta. They were all playing pretty, just W key action, trying to look for every fight they possibly could. Looked a bit like Arena at some points where it was just you would respawn, run to the fight as fast as you could, then respawn in and run to that fight. But both teams very dominant at the very least in their matchups. So I believe Scream dropped 20 kills in the first game. So that's just pretty much par for the course right now for how much action these teams are looking for. Now, what happens when they match up together? It's going to be a little bit of a questionable occurrence because both of them are only used to just running at each other.
Yeah, we'll see. It's the Solar Scarabs and the Tartarus Titans. Final matchup of the day here today, and then we'll have a third-place match as well as the championship game tomorrow afternoon. Who will be playing the Leviathans in that championship game? That is what we are about to find out here. The big question mark with the Solar Scarabs is actually similar, I think, to the Tartarus Titans question mark, and it's that both teams come into this year with a new solo laner. The rest of the roster unchanged. New solo laner for both of these two teams. The Solar Scarabs, inbound sporting the happy birthday hat. By the way, birthday gem sale. 33% off all gems. Go into game right now. Grab yourself some gems. Save yourself some money. Why not? Win-win for everyone involved. Solar Scarabs playing with their new solo laner yesterday, Scary D, and though not here in studio, showed that the smite skill was still there here for the Solar Scarabs roster.
Yeah, both of these solo laners, I'm not going to say they flip-flopped, but they definitely both are facing previous teammates. Both, I think, have a lot to prove here in this matchup, specifically just wanting to show, like, hey, I'm better than you think, or at least I've got the skill to back it up. Yeah, Stuart's little back step there on layers. These teams have history, obviously, so that's going to be a little bit exciting here to see if that comes into play. Maybe a little bit of anger on the field and just trying to prove you're better than them.
I think there is some value in that. I would think though that for both of these two teams, like the first official SPL matchup is really when the gloves may come off, or like the first tournament event later on in the year is when the weight will really be there. I don't think we're going to see the airing out of grievances this weekend during any of these matches. But you're absolutely right. There is some history between these two teams, these two rosters, and I think adds some intrigue no matter what level of competition, what level of importance the matchup the two teams are playing on. It's not a recent change, but I think the biggest change over the last calendar year for the Scarabs team is the addition of Scream in the jungle and just the total about face almost that this roster took, rallied around the jungle. Stuart, I think, saw an increase in play. I mean, everything just seemed to start going right for the Solar Scarabs down the stretch of the year. Once the man who's standing by for the pregame interview, Scream, joined this roster. And this is Scream, who's now on a hot streak. He come off a 20-3 game yesterday. And Stuart gave me a little glimpse. After your games yesterday, are you hoping or not hoping that we were counting KDAs for those matchups?
Oh, I was definitely hoping. That was why I showed up. It's like, hey, I'm going to take these guys down one way or another, and that's what I did.
Fair enough. Well, look, that's your first, even though Scary D is not here, technically your first in-studio matchup with the new solo laner. What are your initial feelings? Though you can't take too much away from the matchups yesterday.
I'm just really excited to play with Scary, I think. Yesterday it was kind of just like we just played some Smite games, but I hope today that we'll be able to like maybe show more what we're made of and maybe get start building up that synergy.
We buckling down a little bit more today, Scream, or all bets are off on what kind of games we're getting?
I hope we buckle down a little bit more, but it's not up to me. Like that's the thing. Like
you did the best you could.
Yeah, exactly. Like my team, and they love trolling. So
yeah, fair enough. Well, look, another team, the Tartarus Titans, they had a wild, wacky set yesterday as well. How do you think you match up into these guys?
They're a great team. They were a top 2 team for most of the year last year. I think, we lost to them at Worlds, but I think we easily could have won that set with a few different plays.
Fair enough.
And, they're a good team. I think we're a good team, so see what we can do.
Clown Fiesta, all serious, somewhere in between. We'll have to wait and see what we get this set. Thanks for talking with me, and best of luck.
Thank you.
So Scream, one of the members of the Scarabs, hoping that the KDAs were counted yesterday. A 20-3 game come to mind, and then a fantastic game, even outside of the 20-3 performance. Again, we kind of joke about how some of the games went yesterday. I think the mindset is right, though, from Scream, specifically around Scary D. I know that Scary D and Scream, even during the offseason last year and the change coming into the team this year, Scary D and Scream are pretty close in their communication. So I think Scream truly just happy to start building up some of that synergy with Scary D over in the solo lane, getting some of the wheels turning with this team. And I genuinely think that Scream is excited for this year to come. And the Solar Scarab should be as well. Lots of good to build on in Season 8 moving forward into Season 9. And we've already mentioned with the Tartarus Titans, Trelly, that the style of roster change very, very similar, where new solo laner for this team, you no longer have Benji, which of course is a big loss. Benji is a storied player as far as Pro Smite goes, but you add a very mechanically skilled player to fill in for Benji, and that's an SOT. So I think the dynamic change is there for the Titans, where the style of gameplay that Sot plays, the style of solo lane that Sot plays, feels a little bit different from Benji, and I hope we get another, maybe even a better look at the solo lane matchup here in this one.
Yeah, I'm hoping to see a lot of aggression in either solo lane. I just want to see them going at each other, really seeing, what each other's made of. Obviously, early season, they just want to, feel each other out at this point and just kind of see how they mesh in with their squad. As you were saying, it is a sort of new dynamic that they both have to get used to here. A new team playing solo. In its own right, solo doesn't impact too much at the early game unless you decide to play off it, because we've mentioned right now there's a lot of farm over on that duo side. But either way, I think both of these solo laners are hungry. They're ready to get back into action. And since it is the beginning of the year, we're hoping to see some crazy new stuff. Yeah,
and I think it's interesting in that the style of picks that Sot used to bring out that were off meta, the Thors, things like that. Although we haven't seen Thor in solo lane. We're now starting to see some of those more unique, assassin-y style picks in the solo lane. It could be SOT's dream.
Yeah.
Over on the right side of the map with the way that the meta has been going here recently. But even outside of Sot, and of course we talk about that because that's been the big change, you have this core of this Titans roster that's returning. I mean, such a talented squad. And we've talked about the Solar Scarabs turnaround over the course of the year in Season 8. How about the Titans, where they struggled early, made some roster changes, ended up going to Worlds Finals with this team? You're centered around Paul. You're centered around this duo lane. Layers comes in, starts to make an immediate difference. And so I think even outside of Sot, you've got this real strong core for the Titans. Clearly good enough to compete in 60-kill games at least.
Absolutely. I mean, Aurora and Cyclone Spin are names that I remember when I started playing Smite. They've been around for a while. I mean, obviously Cyclone at the time was a solo laner, but still, they know the game. They're students of the game. They've been playing for quite some time. So that just bringing that veteranship in the duo lane alone is a very intimidating feat to go up against here. But, yeah, they look very strong, obviously, yesterday. And I think, given the matchup today, I think they're probably feeling pretty confident.
And you're definitely not gassing up Aurora because he's here in the room right now for the pregame interview. You didn't even notice.
Aurora, I didn't even see you there.
is here. Pregame interview for the Tartarus Titans with Aurora. Aurora, can you ever tell a difference, like when you walk in the room, that like we start gassing you up a little bit more? Whoever's coming in for the interview, like we just start talking about them a little bit better. Is that something you players can notice?
Yep. Well, I do at least because I've casted before, helped the casting team.
That's true.
So I know all the little intricacies.
Right. You know all the little ins and outs.
Yeah.
No, you're a fantastic player regardless, Aurora. Whether you're standing in the room or not, we'll say that about you. Talk to me about Sot. We haven't had the chance to bring you guys in here and do the full team check-in. Benji for Sot, two very, very talented players. Do you feel like your team dynamic really changes based on the way SOT might play versus the way Benji plays?
Yeah, for sure. Sot's really good. He likes to make plays, and like I feel like he kind of plays like me a little bit.
Sure.
So it's kind of good to have somebody else like that on the team. So I feel like we play off each other really well.
Yeah, multiple Auroras is never going to be a bad thing, right? Multiple mindsets being very
just
similar.
Likes to get in there.
Yeah, sure, and and we love a little bit of that. This weekend being what it is, more of an exhibition style thing, preseason style games. I'm excited for the first real SPL matchup between these two teams. Do you think there's much history going into the matchup right now between you guys, or are we just we warming up for the SPL?
I don't know. I guess for me not so much,
Sure.
but I guess for the other guys like Sot and Layers maybe.
Could be.
I guess they have Scary now too. I don't know.
Yeah, lots of
But
moving
yeah.
pieces here. Or
Yeah,
it could be
there's
the
a-
more you think
yeah.
about it, maybe.
Who knows? But right now we're just trying to do our best and get
Sure.
ready for SPL and just get some good games in.
Yeah, hopefully we get some fun ones here between you guys and the Scarabs. Best of luck, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Sure thing. And so you get two teams yesterday, that no holds barred. You get 20 kills in 10 minutes, and you love the W key mentality. I like what Aurora's thinking to himself, finally, another guy who loves to just run it down. I love to just W key in. I love to get aggressive. And now we've got one on either side of the map. The rest of the team is thinking, oh, God, we got another Aurora on our team. I think that I'm very excited. In the same way that I am for the Scarabs over the course of Season 9, I think the Titans have a very, very bright future ahead. I think the SPL in general does, with just how talented all of these teams are. So the big question is, Trelly, is to what style of play we're going to get out of these teams today, because with picks and bans, like in our earlier set, it's a 3-0 for the Leviathans. Didn't show too much of what they have in the back pocket, but still showed some interesting picks. I think our post-game interview with Wrong You was pretty enlightening, where he's like, yeah, I don't know, I haven't played Umoja in a while. Just wanted to give it a try, which I can't believe, by the way. It looked that good, and it's knocking off the rust on the Umoja. As far as meta goes over the course of this weekend, has anything really surprised you from what we've seen from all of these teams? We've had the SEC qualifiers as our only marking point, or only barometer on the way that the meta goes. Has anything jumped out at you over picks and bans over the course of the weekend?
I mean, the only thing is that wasn't really a surprise, just something that I expected that differed pretty heavily from the SEC plans, or the SBL plans, and then the SEC qualies we just watched, was this surge of Atlas. Obviously, Aurora, one of the Atlas founders, I would say. He's been playing him pretty much every chance he gets a chance. Obviously, Rongyu was also picking him up a little bit there as well, but just this rise of Atlas where people are finally starting to understand, okay, this character has a lot of potential. Pretty much on release, everyone sort of said, he doesn't do any damage with his ult, so this character is not good. But just the ability to lock someone down, hold them, shred protection, that sort of thing, very, very strong right now. And that's pretty much been the biggest eye opener for me once this these players started coming in.
Yeah, everyone's feeling vindicated. He was preaching Atlas support all the way back during SPL play-ins, and now the meta's finally catching up with that just a little bit. First few bans of the set starting to roll through. Ardio plus Bastet both get banned away from the Solar Scarabs. And on the flip side, a Zeus off the table, Erlong Shen and Klidna all gone. And so, not only during this sort of exhibition, the season kickoff tournament, are we expecting to see Scream get emphasized a little bit, banned out in picks and bans, but I expect that to continue all throughout the year here in Season 9. But I think, Trolley, what Scream has proven
my child,
is that you can ban him out a little bit, right? But you can only take so much away from a player as talented as Scream.
Yeah, I think out of every SPL player I've seen, Scream tweets the most about 5 bans and you still can't stop me, those sort of things. So I think he actually thrives when these teams try to shut him out and try to say, hey, we saw him get 20 kills on Gilgamesh yesterday. Let's ban that out, for example. He's not going to care too much about that. Scream does have a deep god pool. We haven't seen half of what he can do. Obviously, it's still very early days for the jungler for the Solar Scarabs. Tiamat, however, very highly contested pick nowadays. The thoughts of the world have been getting highly contested. Obviously, the Zeus taken away from Paul, but Tiamat just a tried and true, pretty safe, high damage dealing mid laner for Boronic.
Yeah, I want to see more from Boronic today. Not that it was a bad set yesterday by any means, but it felt like, again, as chaotic as those games got, it felt like a lot of it was centered around Scream, Scary D, over on the right side of the map. And so, again, not because it was a bad set yesterday from Boronic, I just want to see a game plan centered around the mid lane. Let's see what the Solar Scarabs can start to get done with something like a Tiamat pick. So as far as data that I'm trying to collect this week, I think giving Boronic something like the Tiamat a good start for me checking some boxes for this team moving forward here this year. Serket ends up being the lock-in. Suppose it could be support, but I've seen it more recently out of the jungle. And then Nox, another pick that we've seen played, again, during one of our more fun matchups yesterday, so I didn't know how much to look into it, but we get another look at the Nox here in Game 1.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, we've seen it twice against this Atlas, and maybe that's the reasoning. There is a few charge-up abilities that Atlas has. Obviously, there's a dash to channeled ability. Stopping that right away could be quite annoying. Atlas and Kama, though, 2 staple picks for the Titans, I think, as of now. Obviously, we haven't seen the Atlas too much, but the fact that we've seen it yesterday alone is the first time it's been available, for pro play. So we've been seeing the Atlas quite a lot, and obviously Layers very good on this Kama pick. On the flip side, actually not on the flip side, on the same side.
Yep.
Paul loves this Camazotz transformation on the Morgan. He can
Yeah, that's a good
constantly
one.
bat out of hell, very safe, good engage, good disengage, a lot of damage in that pick as well. So whenever we see this Camazotz pick, it's fair to see that the Morgan should be banned away from Paul at the very least, but this time he's going to pick it up.
Agreed. Very strong pick for the Tartarus Titan. Very strong duo. Not only does Paul love that transformation anyway, but Paul is just so good on the Morgan in general, even detransformed. Nearly brought the Titans back into that game 3 against the Leviathans at Worlds on the Morgan. That was kind of the the last line of defense at times, it felt like. But Camazotz, Atlas, Morgan, a good start here for the Tartarus Titans. Tiamat, Serket, and Nox over for the Solar Scarabs. A little more unique on one side of the table from what we've got on the other. Split bans, though, for the Titans. You've got some solo lane mentality, banning out the Achilles from Scary D. Heimdall, of course, then getting taken away from Stewart. And another, I think, difference that we've seen from like the SEC qualifiers, SPL play-ins even to now, is the different levels of Hunter priority, where it felt like Iza and Medusa were either being pick banned in like the first 2, and now, and again, it's different updates, things like that. We're one update further down the road here this weekend. Feels like Hunters have fallen down the priority list just a little bit. Don't immediately see Medusa insta-lock. Don't immediately see Izanami banned out in the first 3. And things like the Chernobog are getting played.
Yeah, the duo lane priority, definitely something we saw much higher in that tournament. But still, these Guardians have been, or I guess supports specifically, have been prioritized. Obviously, Atlas high on the Titans priority list right now, getting Aurora on that pick. I remember yesterday we looked at the game and saw that there was 14 kills, and Aurora was like, 6, and he just had 100% kill participation. The man, anywhere he was setting up greatness, and his team was following suit. But now we're starting to get something very interesting here. So looks to me like the Ratatosker solo is locked in.
Yeah,
there.
wait a second. We're talking about Tiamat and Nox here, and I'm not even like, it's not crossing my mind yet that I would assume both of those would go mid. I mean, Tiamat's mid.
Yeah,
right?
Tiamat's
that's
mid.
for sure. Now there's a Poseidon.
That's jungle.
Okay, so there's no traditional ADC.
No, that's ADC. I lied.
ADC Poseidon.
Yep.
Could be what you build rings or something like that on the Poseidon, start swinging.
Serket jungle.
Serket jungle.
Rat solo. Bobby's
Rat
on
solo.
the Bobby on the Nox.
Yeah, I think that I think I would agree with that. I think if you're going to break this down somehow, that's the way I would break it down as well. So on one side, Solar Scarabs, having some fun and drafting something a little bit more unique, seeing if this is the style of team comp they can make work over the course of Season 9. And on the flip side, we'll call it standard for the Tartarus Titans.
Yeah, the Rat solo I'm a big fan of. Always being able, you can proxy so freely, always have that ultimate available if you need to. I mean, if you're playing Rat right, you can actually proxy a wave and still be able to ult over to mid if you want. But on the flip side, you are giving Paul a pretty nasty transformation there if you do want to give him any more global presence. Right now, he does have the Chernobog ult if he chooses to use it for a good way to, get in and out of fights as well. So a lot of options here if you are the Morgan. You're looking at a lot of different abilities that you can try to take advantage of on the Solar Scarabs draft. But that Poseidon, which I believe, again, is the ADC, is going to be very interesting, I think. He's got some good clear, but his auto attack shred, not the best until he gets a few items online.
I mean, there's got to be mobility concerns there as well, right?
Of course.
I mean, once beads are gone, feels like Aurora on the Atlas can kind of walk at him and pull him in. Now, with the Whirlpool down, that'll add some difficulty there. And then the Kraken, of course, good for disruption. But laning could be rough here for this Poseidon. But if it ends up being Nox support, that's pretty annoying to play into there as well. Nem and Camazotz picked here for the Tartarus Titans. Normally, you would just assume that either of those would be in the jungle, if they're picked in individually. But really, Trey, it feels like both have been picked in the solo lane here as of late as well.
Yeah, they certainly would. If it wasn't the Titans, I would probably say the Cam is definitely going solo. But because it's the Titans, and we know Layers loves his Kama, and SOT did the Frostbound Nemesis solo yesterday, I imagine they're probably just doing the run back there. Nemesis has a decent matchup in the solo lane. I hate to say that just because of, she can build tanky and just let the minions come in, go Death's Toll, heal up as best as she can. The clear's not great. I think he did take an early death to Nika because of how much pressure the Kokolin had. So the Nem, not great early, but a solid late game carry if it gets to that point. If that's what you're picking that Nem solo for, I suppose, if you're trying to get that value out.
I think this is usually a pretty good barometer for you really highly ranked players like yourself, Trelly. Are you excited seeing a Nem solo locked in? If you're playing ranked.
Oh, no.
No. But I guess there is a difference.
No.
To be fair, there is a difference between, like, Sot playing Nem solo and your ranked teammates playing Nem solo.
So let's pretend it's SOT on a Smurf in my game and he locks it. I'm definitely getting angry, and then once I see the performance, then I'll sort of judge based on that.
They gotta prove it right.
Exactly.
You're not giving a Nem solo the benefit of the doubt straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
You gotta prove it right. And with the players on the Titans, that's something we expect to be proven right at some point. Chernobog, something we haven't really touched on just yet, that global presence from the Tartarus Titans dual lane, something they could duplicate if that's where Paul wants to go. We've got some fun in store. Solar Scarabs versus the Tartarus Titans, game number 1.
Should be an interesting game 1 with the drafts that we have brought out here today. And man, Ratatosker, Poseidon, it's going to be the Poseidon ADC, just like Charlie was pointing out there. Scary D on the Ratatosker for this Solar Scarabs right out the gate, and then inbound, taking it all knocks into support. It's J-Mac, it's Gormizer, it's Doug here for game number 1 in the best of 5 between the Solar Scarabs and the Tartarus Titans.
I'm excited for this one, man. Like, for all sorts of reasons. Rematch from World Semis. You've got a Poseidon ADC, which just is enticing to me, right? You're going to be bringing good things and bad things for the team. If you look at Cyclone Spin, you've got good physical damage. He's going to be able to build into crit if he wants it. He's going to have a good amount of lifesteal immediately available to him. Gives him good power, things like that. And, of course, there's that thing that Chernobog has. Yeah, what is that? Like a global presence?
Ooh,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
Poseidon still has Kraken, though, so not only is that going to be pretty fun in lane and like 1v1s, but for objectives, that means that Stuart becomes very important. Downside, you are not going to hit very hard early on, and depending on how you want to build this, if you want to go true carry and you want to have it be the auto attacks, we're going to see like a ring build, and that's going to change up maybe the idealization of how you play this Poseidon, or you just build it like a mage and you play him like a mage.
Potentially so. We'll see what route
what was that,
Stuart
Season 5?
decides to. Good lord, that you say that and it feels like it's so long ago because it actually was. Season 5 was over 3 years ago, Gore. At this point here, Scary D double dashed on by SOT Beads out of the Nemesis just to get away from Scream, using those minions to try and body block, but SOT has run out of minions, has run out of time. The shield comes up just in time, but not enough to help him out. Scream takes first blood for the Scarabs.
Sot almost got that turnaround. Sot almost was able to survive through there. We live in a world where now 4 assassins have made their way over into the solo lane. Granted, some of them were the junglers, but either way, I think that's impressive. Good on Scary to come back in. I think that Scream controls a lot of that, but that's good mechanical play. I mean, we've been talking about it, and Mifflin, I think, mentions it the most, but, like, Solo War Troll is just really great mechanically at Smite, and that was a perfect showcase of it. There's no reason, with 2 people having dealt that much damage to him, that he should have been the one looking like he could have gotten a kill up until the very end.
Bound picked up, but he's got the dash to get away. Nice little pushback there by Stuart from that tidal wave. May have just secured inbound's freedom from that fight. But SOT on this assassin to the Nemesis. You talk about the 4 assassins. It also makes me got to bring up a point here, Gore. Maybe after this, there shouldn't be any kill pressure here unless Aurora can just do some sneaky big damage on that Atlas. First blood for the Titans now. Goes the way of the support, SOT. However, will be accosted over on the right side of the map. Layer's more interested in the buff. Lets his solo laner go down.
This is frightening. I think the ability that Atlas brings, and I never thought this would be the case, but who would win between Atlas and 2 mages? Atlas being able to win in that engagement. Granted, they were already low. Cyclone's been helping a little bit of pressure, but like Aurora getting that kill is a big deal. You're slowing down this Poseidon. I already mentioned, and I still think it's going to be true, he's going to feel much more build-based depending on how Stuart wants to play him. And you've got 2 mages, so again, if you go right now, you've started up probably going to end up going Thieves for Aurora, but like if you just pick up, like a Heart Ward, a lot of the damage from the left side of the map just kind of disappears from the Scarabs. Just depends on how worried you are about Baronic, Stuart. So right now, Scream and Scary D having 2 kills, 2 assists, both of them onto to Solo or Troll. That's really where my concern would be on a majority of this map. Sot's really good, but they're trying to set him behind. They are actively deciding to make sure. I mean, even now, they're doing their best to make sure he just can't get anything done.
Dash in by Scary D. SOT one more time will go down thanks to the help of the last breath poison. And the Death Bane right after, but double ult used on the right side to take out SOT yet again. The Tartarus Titans will set up for something here on the left side, but For now, the Titans are just going to have to live with, and SOT specifically will have to live with the fact that he might just not get to play the game for a while.
Yeah, they don't seem to want to let him do anything. And again, I think that's perfectly reasonable from what we've seen out of SOT in the past. What I think is funny, though, and I'm chuckling just because, Scary, like, they've used 2 ults there. Scary did not in any way, shape, form, or fashion need to use his, but still got that extra damage on the coup. You really need that one. I think it's just fun to watch this Rat solo, especially up against Nim. I mean, we've seen it a lot and typically getting bullied by Guardians in the past. And so it's fun to watch it up against specifically where this Nemesis has been. Because admittedly, in just the 1v1, it hasn't been Scary D's direct win for them. Solar Troll's only getting put behind thanks to Scream.
So I got a nice little chuckle watching the little Minotaur just waddle its way against Paul. Like, Paul got some distance, and it's just sitting there, like, trouncing about, almost like a Mario NPC just walking away from him. But one thing I won't say I just noticed. I noticed it earlier on, didn't get a chance to bring it up. Aurora's playing the only technical tank in this game. Everybody else is a quote-unquote DPS style of character. Aurora ruining the trend here. Everybody else was going for damage.
Well, the last time Aurora played something that wasn't a tank in a game like this, if I remember correctly, he played the Pele, and he went 10-0. So maybe it's for the betterment of the Scarabs. He didn't want to flex on him again.
Really didn't want to bring down that level of pain. Scary D up 7-6 in levels up against SOT right now. And honestly, kind of impressive from SOT, only being like a level, maybe at worst a level and a half down, considering he's died 3 times already. Doesn't have a teleport, so he's had to waddle his way back to lane every single time on this Nemesis. But for now, SOT will have to hold face a little bit here. Full Acorn has been bought by Scary D. Meanwhile, SOT still waiting to finish that first tier 3.
I actually really like this kind of positioning for both of them. I mean, as you mentioned, like waiting a little bit there for Scary D. Since he got his Acorn, I'm sure he's feeling just fine. But you have to look at his positioning. He's been fine. You had mentioned it. He's, level and a half-ish ahead. 2 levels technically from where Solar Troll is, but I imagine SOT is going to hit 7 soon. But I just keep watching Scream. Anytime we talk about the solo lane, I just look to see where Scream is in the jungle. A second ago, it was Invade City. Now it's just going on to the Scorpion.
And layers up in the sky with the Bat Out of Hell. Needs one more swipe to get the kill onto Stewart. And that'll be a second kill up finally for the Titans. Now 1 on the jungle, 1 on the support. And that's just what the Titans need to slow down the Scarabs, because the Scarabs have been able to amass about a 1K lead as far as the gold and XP were concerned. So good on the Titans to slow them down.
And realistically, a lot of that is directly in the solo lane. About 700 gold there, 600 gold from that, and then another 600-700 coming down from Circuit. So it's almost all exclusively right-hand side of the map related, and that's reflected pretty heavily. You've got technically a lead for inbound, and then a level deficit down there for Stewart. But he's now got the Doom Orb online. I think that's going to be a good power spike, at least early on. Clear-wise should be able to maintain himself. I don't think we're going to see a good boxing match between him and Cyclone Spin, though, for a while, because if Kraken is up, Stewart can fight. If it's not, Cyclone Spin wins. So realistically, it's all going to be around that diamond next to his name as to whether or not he can actually engage. Otherwise, there's a line of scrimmage that's slowly getting pushed towards his Tier 1 tower.
Scary D throwing out the double spin there on SOT. SOT able to heal up through one of them thanks to the help of that shield, but the second one will end up eating the damage there. Veronic going for a very early defense item, second spot here. And it's not the traditional defensive items we've been seeing from the mages as of recent. More so it's been the Celestial Legion helms or the Void Stones, even Stone of Binding for some of these mages. But Veronic instead is going towards that Breastplate of Valor second item, something that was very common last year, something that Paul specifically really loved building, that and Mantle of Discord. But it's not the one that we've normally been seeing out of these mages.
No, it's this, I think, combination right now, right? And recent changes, you can only get 1 glyph, right? So that maybe adjusts a little bit of it. But Breastplate, just at base, cool. Physical prots, I see a lot of physicals on the other side. And yeah, they should be out of here. Now Cyclone Spin's making a rotation to mid.
Cyclone's here, but doesn't get the root. Layers gets some damage on Veronic, but because of that Breastplate, not eating a whole lot of it so far. And it'll be a disengage now by the Titans and a re-engage by the Scarab. Scream finds Aurora, but the beads out of the Atlas will make sure that he's fine. Big Gamma Ray burst from Aurora, slams into 3 with Paul coming back in the fight. Inbound has to dash out, but Veronic is now left alone to fight against 2. Up on the tree and down to the ground is Scary D. But all these ultimates expended, literally every ult except for Stewart's off the table. but no kills to show for it.
A lot of damage exchanged between the two, but again, little moments that keep people alive. Baronic, I think, is someone worth mentioning. You had kind of highlighted not just the breastplate that he's building into, but like really just Tiamat, kind of tanky to begin with. And it loops us right back around to the fact that he's a little tankier than normal, so going in on him isn't going to be necessarily the best that you can do. There's 2 assassins, he's expecting to dive him. If he gets the breastplate at base, you get cooldown, you get mana, you get health, or you get protections, right? So you feel pretty solid about that. Having the glyphs available to you, we've been seeing a lot of the breastplate like upgraded. Some of them aren't getting it as much. Like, you know, you'll notice the Jotuns right now, those will get upgraded late game, right? Breastplate's one of those ones that it's a little shaky. Sometimes you want to upgrade it a little sooner, maybe not immediately, but you'll do it, you know, before you get that full item slottage going on. Maybe you'll end up waiting for your starter, maybe you won't. It just depends on whether or not you need that extra update. And so I'll watch Baronic to see if we even get to a point like that where he's going to upgrade it. But this is going to allow the Tiamat to be a lot more in the center of the fight and not have to worry about the assassins that are going to get to the back line, not going to have to worry too much about getting picked up by a roar, and really give us a fun, well, I want to say just like engagement, because it feels like he's going to be able to act almost as like a second tank for the team.
We did have a brief pause in the action here, but right back into it now. Are the Solar Scarabs still maintaining a very small, about 800 gold lead here 10 minutes in? Kind of in line of what we saw yesterday, even up against the Kings. No matter how bloody the game one had gotten between the Scarabs and the Kings, that gold lead never really shook any further than like 1,000 gold, flipping back and forth between the teams. So this early game, even with the Scarabs having this very small lead, with the level of control that they've been putting on the map, they're never out of these games just yet.
I think this is just such a close lead at this point, like you had mentioned, that I don't even know if anybody's going to be able to get a true distinct advantage until Gold Furies, some of the bigger objectives, neutral objectives on the map come up. In which case, Scarabs, in my mind, have a better grab. They might even be able to get Paul.
Paul turns back around to fight Scream, but has to use his Invis to get away. Aurora picks up Scream, throws him against the wall, slams into him, but not enough damage. The Gamma Ray Burst needs a little bit more, but there's not enough. This time around, Scream will squeak by, and he'll live through this fight. Maybe thankfully that Aurora doesn't have any damage built on this god. Something like Stone of Binding we know has been very common amongst these supports. But so far, no damage on Aurora means no kill this time around.
And I think happily, you know, again, it's like that exchange. Paul gets to walk out. One auto from that Circuit, he's dead, right? Because the passive poisons that have ticked up. Same way the other way around. If Aurora can close gap, he's going to die. So both being able to kind of shriek away, it's almost weird because it's like a mirror of what had just happened in mid, where everybody comes in, damage is dumped by almost anybody and everybody involved, and nothing big happens out of it. It's just kind of like, all right, that hurt, let's get out of here. And so that reset comes through, and that brings me to what I was talking about earlier, where you know, you have to start looking at these neutral objectives, things that are going to be coming up. I look at Gold Furies because I got to crack it if I'm the Scarabs. I want every single fight around those I can take. That's free secure. Granted, there is Morgan on the other side, so you have to worry about her being and transforming into a Poseidon or into, I think we've even seen some like Chernobyls, just so you can get up and transform and get over to a fight. Things like that are going to be able to create some interesting fight dynamics. But we've also noticed, and I think we'll see this more often than not, Camazotz is, in a matchup like this, it's going to be Camazotz or Circuit are more often than not the transition for you.
Especially with a team like the Titans who have been running these two picks for such a long time between themselves. I mean, when Layers joined the team, this Camazotz became one of the staple picks of this, and Paul was already playing Morgan by that point. We've been seeing this double Camazotz combo come out of the Titans for such a long time here. But back in the action, 11.5 minutes in, and my eyes are on inbound right now. Stone of Binding, like I was saying earlier, we've been seeing that come up with a lot of these more support-oriented gods. But then going to a second item, Penetration. Spear of Desolation comes to mind here. Spear of the Magus maybe, but maybe we'll find out here now that he's gone back. It is
Desolation.
Spear of Desolation. So not a lot of protections online for this mage support, I should say.
Yeah, so this is where things get, again, interesting for team fights. You're going to have more damage if you're the Scarabs, which enables inbound specifically here to start fighting more. I think he's going to be able to get, like, that shadow lock is going to lock people down and do a good chunk of damage to him. You had mentioned it, but, like, having pin, a lot of power from Spear of Deso as well. So he can hit pretty hard. But really, it should open them for things like this, plays where they can go for neutral objectives, and they should be able to burn it faster whenever inbounds around.
Cyclone's here, though, but silenced out by inbound. Still some time for Cyclone to maybe take this one away. No, it's the Solar Scarabs with the Kraken to find the objective. Cyclone spin. Stands inside the wall so he doesn't die out to this poison, but he will die to Scary D after he dunks in off the tree. Layers on the bat out of hell. Not many places left for him to go except for the grayscale screen.
And now the surge forward from the Titans. Paul's actually walking at them.
Paul's going to go in with the stun. He misses, though, but Scary D still goes down after the leap comes through. Inbound will lock Paul down in place. And the Gamma Ray after from Aurora. Not enough damage, but that will allow Paul to keep going forward with that bat out of hell. Stewart will make it out of that fight. Not quite enough damage to drop the Poseidon, and it's SOT going down.
And now just a little bit more damage is all they need. The chase. Baronic doesn't have the mana. Paul doesn't have the health to keep going. So they'll finally pull themselves back and slow things down. I'm going to be honest, J-Mac, I think at the end of that fight, they still came out balanced between all of them. Aurora didn't die, so maybe even more worthwhile for the Scarabs. They lose inbound, who, just because he's slotted into the support role, is going to be more worthwhile to lose than literally anybody that the Titans could have dropped. And you still maintain a little bit of a gold lead for the Scarabs after getting it, so I guess still technically worth, but it feels like we just kind of moved the gold numbers up, moved the kill numbers up, and ended up more or less in the exact same spot the game was in.
Layers in danger. Misses the bats up against Scream. Scream will continue to chase through. A leap in for a leap out of Layers. That'll get him back to the Tier 1 tower. Back to safety. And ultimate down out by Scream, but Scary D up on the tree. Where will he land through? A little bit shy of hitting Layers. And that could be the call of Scary D going down. Still has that dash, but the body blocks by SOT and Aurora are good. But a better silence pull out of inbound may just be enough to get Scary D out of here. Even Cyclone rotating into this fight is not enough for the Titans to stop them.
And that's just clever. Look, if you're going to have a Nox in your game, like the dash is going to be good, but being able to just say, I'm going to ride along with the Circuit to make sure I have the mobility to get out of this fight. Otherwise, I think inbounds ends up dying there. So a good dash from him just to be able to ride along the mobile assassins on the team and make sure that he gets good use of that. Gets in, gets out. It's just a little... I don't even want to say questionable. It's just one of those moments where the Scarabs are trying to push this lead, I think, a little further. Unfortunately, the Titans have just enough answer. And Paul seems to be a good chunk of it. I mean, that last transformation, last big team fight, goes into the Kamazots, waits until after Layers has already got everything done, and then really is starting to apply stuff. So it's going to be between him and I want to say like Stewart's rotations, things like that are going to make the big difference in a lot of these fights.
Close on that Pyromancer by Aurora, but not close enough. Solar Scarabs get yet another objective, add a little bit more gold to their pockets, but again, that gold is not really amassing to much. It's still only sitting around this 1K mark. The experience was even in favor of the Titans after that last little team fight skirmish that we did see on that right-hand side. Looking across the way onto the builds, inbound finally building into some defense here. As he got that Emerald Mail built up next. Cyclone jumped on, Kraken right after, and Aegis to hold out some of the damage there, but inbound will make sure to lock him down as soon as he walks in the jungle.
Just unfortunate, right? You use your beads, you use your Aegis, you get through, you Circuit ult, you stand in the Kraken, you manage to walk away from all of it, and then Nox just comes up and says, cool, silence, root, you're stuck here, have fun. You can't do anything, get out of the lane. Send him back to the base. That is a big difference maker, though. Prior to that, Cyclone gets a Tier 1 tower. One thing that the Titans are just going to, at base level, be able to do better than the Scarabs is take towers. Any of these objectives are going to get knocked down a little bit quicker, a lot easier for them, and that's going to make a big difference. They've got 2 assassins plus the hunter, so they should be able to clear them pretty quickly when they're in the position to do so. But unless they get a fire giant, things like that late game, it's still going to be kind of awkward to do so. Man, on the other side, the Scarabs, it's going to take them some time. Even with a fire giant, it's going to take them some time. And I'm looking at Stewart's build. That's not one that makes those autos hit that hard. I mean, he's got a Toxic Blade, which is going to be helpful dealing with some of the healing as well as giving him a little bit of pushback. But he's got the Breastplate, he's got the Doom Orb. So some good power in there, some good, like safety. But nothing that is immediately screaming about how he's going to be essentially an ADC, right? The attack damage carry. He's going for all of those abilities.
He does move fast, though.
He does be
move
zooming.
fast. He do be zooming. Pop that second ability, plus the help of the Toxic Blade and the Doom Orb. Scream's going to need a little bit of that extra mobility to get away from layers. He does not. Bat out of hell is good to take down the jungler of the Solar Scarab. Stewart gets stunned out, and Paul into the backline transforms into yet another Camazotz, but he doesn't get to use any of the benefits of that Camazotz. It's Scary D to shut him down.
And that's a good kill. I mean, immediately getting rid of Paul. For Scream, absolutely going to be worthwhile. Paul brings so much to the table, but you have to be careful where you're taking these fights, and that's a teleport from Scary D. Now that he's out of the fight, that's a good fight for the Titans on the right.
Cyclone essentially just gets the teleport to this right side fight, and he'll join up with Layers and the rest of the Titans to take down inbound. Now a 2-for-1 trade for the Tartarus Titans, maybe make it 3, as Baronic has been surrounded inside the Tier 1 tower. Ultimate out of Aurora, and the final auto after will take out the mid laner of the Scarabs. Titans have now tied up the kill count and nearly tied up this gold.
Honestly, at this separation in gold as well, at this minute mark 18 in, it's not a big deal. The Titans, slightly behind, that's going to be like a couple of wards, if even. And they've got plenty in the inventory. I don't think they're worried about it. You get a Granger Magic Shell on the end of that if you're a Roar. And a lot of that is just finding certain picks, right? I mean, none of those were massive team wipe kills. It was, cool, we killed Scream. Oh, Scary D's gone? Cool, let's go in. Awesome, we killed Inbound. Oh, Inbound's gone? Cool, now we got Baronic. And it was just, a domino effect, where the Scarabs just end up falling down. They're lucky that it was in a position and they were left in a position where the Titans weren't going to be able to find a Fire Giant afterward. Unfortunately, they're still in a position where the Titans can find something because they control the map.
Oni Fury will go down. Tartarus Titans can finally claim an objective of their own on this left side of the map. Inbound, level 14 on this Nox, finally has that first real defensive item stacking up with Gauntlet of Thieves. He's going to need a little bit more than that to get away from Layers, to get away from Aurora, to get away from SOT, and make that pretty much the entirety of the Titans here. 4 of them inside this left-hand jungle, and Cyclone continuing his split push on the right-hand side, and the Titans have finally taken the kill lead here in this game.
And Aurora just took every Obelisk offering that the Scarabs had as well. So a good chunk of health that he just took. I think it was 3 drops, so 15% of his health. Granted, it's going to do less and less damage each time. But still, you can see he's sitting at half health. Not necessarily a comfortable spot to be in. While the Scarabs have been sitting in here, they haven't been able to do anything. They lost the red buff. They were waiting for an ambush that never really got to happen. Now they're just hoping to defend this tier 2. But Cyclone, if he gets those minions in here, he's going to be able to walk up. That thing's only 2 to 3 hits.
Could go down pretty easily here. Layers and Paul, the double Camazotz will take down Scream, but will take down Scary D instead. Paul's attention has been diverted over to Baronic. He'll swipe out, but Scary D finds Layers in the backline. Scary D now separated away from the rest of the Solar Scarabs while the Titans push down that left side tier 2 tower and continue their onslaught across the map. But losing Layers will slow them down just a little bit.
1 for 1 in terms of jungle to jungle, but you get the tier 2, so you get a good amount of gold if you're the Titans, 1,500, that immediately allows you to back. You can buy some things. I think they're in a good position right now to control the neutral zones of the map, right? Pyromancer, Fire Giant should be in favor of the Titans. Maybe you can sneak one if you're the Scarabs, and it looks like they're going to go for it. But this is the question. Do you drop your Kraken here? I don't think you do. If you're Stewart, I would rather have this stolen away than secure it and lose that ultimate, because that is the steal potential. If you want to get rid of a Fire Giant potential for the Titans, it's Stewart being able to walk up and take it. Scary D, if he has his ult, technically can try, but it's just so much more secure while Stewart's around. So you have to be careful where you're using that, which also means Stu needs to stay alive as long as possible and as best as possible. Because the Titans, again, they're looking for picks. They're out for blood.
Persistent Teleport now finished up for Scary D. So it's a teleport and a beads on the side of the solo laner for the Scarabs. Titans for SOT, he's gone Blink instead alongside those beads. So far as team fight relics go, we only have the single shell on both sides here. Each support has picked theirs up, but only Aurora has actually maxed it out to that fortified shell. So he's going to get a little bit of extra defense for his team and a nice little bonus passive that'll come from that item.
It's going to be fun to watch how that ends up shaking out for them. Again, just having a little bit more of survivability, I think, for the Titans. Especially, again, he's the only Guardian in the game. So I think Aurora's going to be deadly, and it's at half health. Layers took a lot of damage. I don't know if the Titans can take this fight the way they want to.
Scream goes in, and so does Scary D now up on the tree. Where is his target landing spot? It's only on top of SOT. Cyclone will turn around and throw out some damage, but Scream finds him with the last breath in the backline. Tornado is chasing out one, and it's going to be Cyclone Spin going down. Stewart finds the first kill of the fight and is now on the run because Paul has chased him out. The Aegis will hold out, but only for a moment longer.
It's carry for carry so far, but look, inbound so low, he can't really stay in this. Scary D's out of the fight, and his teleport just came back up. He's back in. He's going to loop around.
Veronic's going down. Scream gets pulled back in. He's got the Dark Omen on top, but inbound is here to slow down SOT while Scary D fights against 3 in the back and is somewhat winning this trade, but now that he's gone back into the clutches of SOD, it's going to be a back and forth, a neck-and-neck race. Which solo is going to go down first? It's the support instead. Inbound falls to Paul and Scary D to SOT.
And look, Scream's just one hit away.
What? No,
Good
he doesn't.
taunts from Scream! At least takes down Layers with him. And that might be the difference between a Fire Giant, J-Mac. I think if you lose 4 and then potentially 5 if Scream goes down, but there's still 4 standing on the other side for the Titans. They get an FG, no problem, and they're surging minimum into a Phoenix. You're lucky. You get a kill. You kill off Layers. Cyclone Spin was dead for a long time early on.
Oh, Cyclone, speaking of him, he is right back, and Scream has already used all of his mobility, so Cyclone Spin can just walk in
Look
and
at that time.
clean up the pieces here. 50 seconds until Scream is back, and that's the go call from the Tartarus Titans to start up this Fire Giant. It's just SOT and Cyclone here. Aurora will join right at the tail end. And there's nobody on the Solar Scarabs who can get here to steal this one in time. No global ult to help them grab this one out of here. The Tartarus Titans will take the Fire Giant.
I know we can see everything. Look how many wards there are there for the Titans. You could have held it 5 seconds for Layers. You could have let the man have his Fire Giant buff. Yeah, the answer is no. They're going to be able to get a lot of gold off this, though. I mean, again, it's off the back of a great fight. And, of course, specifically having it on Cyclone Spin is really the important call to me. I think if you look at everybody, Solar Patrol, Layers, and Cyclone Spin having that physical damage, being able to burn through the Titans a little bit better, or not the Titans, the towers, a little bit better, that's going to make things, well, just more solid for them, right? Having the Fire Giant there for Cyclone Spin, by the way, gone for the Deathbringer, so he has gone into that crit. There's no Spectral Armor on the other side, so he's just hitting really hard, and there's no real equitable damage on the other side. Like the Scarabs, you're getting a lot from Scary D, you're getting a lot from Scream, but look at where Stewart is. I mean, he's down below the Chernobog. Granted, he's keeping pace, admittedly, only about 1,200 difference between the two of them. That's a Kraken and a Whirlpool in a really good spot, right? And depending on how many players you can hit. But it's just not as much, especially when we see the structure damage at the end.
Aurora in danger. 3 throwing CC, but not enough damage to kill the Atlas. Instead, it's Paul turning it around for a double kill. Stewart only lives for a moment longer before Layers takes him down, and Paul picks up the triple kill. Baronic stands by and watches his entire team fall. And with 4 gone now, the Solar Scarabs can begin knocking on the door of these bases.
Yeah, Cyclone Spin already in a great position. Has minions and has Fire Giant buff, and he's under the Phoenix on left side, all alone. Granted, a little bit of damage from Baronic, but he gets the bird, no problem. The rest of the team can just run in now to the Titan room.
Titans are doing so. Cyclone walks in. It's him and Layers, and now the rest of the Titans meeting up after. It doesn't seem they're interested in the Titan itself just yet. Tartarus Titans will drop the mid lane bird, and now we'll group up. It is the 5 versus 1. Baronic slowed down, stunned out by Paul, and taken down by SOT. And game number 1 in this best of 5 set will go over to the Tartarus Titans.
I think good early focus from the Scarabs. They spent a lot of time focusing down specifically, okay, it does go down, focusing down Solar Troll and spending a lot of time over there making sure that the Nemesis was going to have a lot of trouble existing in the game. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of pressure going on in duo, and that's where Cyclone Spin and Aurora were already winning. Aurora gets a good early kill, specifically onto Stewart, slows him down, slows the Poseidon's build, and then they kind of pull that over into mid. Morrigan hits her stride around that level 12 mark. Paul just starts stepping up to these fights, getting good stuns, good damage, good transformations, and even when things were going back and forth between them, it always felt like the Titans were getting a little bit of an edge out of it, right? Scarabs get a Gold Fury, and then they lose 4 people, Titans only lose 3. You start a next fight. Oh, cool, we lost 4, they lost 2, but they didn't get Fire Giant, but they're still about 3k gold ahead. Every time the Titans were just a little bit further and further away.
Impressive game by both these teams, but for game 1, it goes to the Tartarus Titans. We'll come back for game 2 right after this.
about you. Lately, I'm hanging on to my maybe. I miss you every day. You were the one who got away. Don't wanna take it slow. Just wanna let you know. Ready to spend some time. I wanna spend some time. Needed some time to grow. Just wanna let you know. Ready to spend some time. I wanna spend some time with you. Don't wanna take it slow. Just wanna let you know. Ready to spend some time with you. I wanna spend some time. Needed some time to grow. Just wanna let you know. Ready to spend some time. I wanna spend some time. Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind, when we rewind, it feels so nice. We time, you I know how to make me feel right. I can't help how. Got this sweet talk, I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk, you need to say less to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way, on my way. Why you blushing? Yeah, sweet concussion. Oh, you miss my touching. Good girl. Show me something, give me more than one thing. I need more than less than I do. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind, when we rewind, it feels so nice. I can't help how. Got this sweet talk, I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk, you need to say less to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way, on my way. We've been dancing all night long, right here with you way too long. Don't want nothing here or now, but I'm done waiting, done wasting my time. Got this sweet talk, I'm already on my way. I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk, you need to say less to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way, on my way. Sweet talk, sweet
I bought a house in Cabo to shake off my cargo. It went a little bit far though. I didn't blow my top off. 9-6 by Arsenal. I didn't drive my car home when I drank that charcoal. Man, I miss my mom so. Ask me how it feels. I say it feels too real. When you pick up speed towards pitch black weed. Well, you got your thoughts. All the in there deep. What about your heart? Does it beat too hard? Mine does. Mine does.
Holy shit! It's Smite's birthday! I have to get everyone a card.
Oh, come on. Again? Tarot time! A card. Uh-oh.
Welcome back after game number 1 goes over to the Tartarus Titans, back and forth in game 1. And then some late game team fighting, just a little bit more clean for the Titans. And what a way to ring in Smite's birthday. And it is Smite's birthday. And as you saw in that commercial, a whole lot of discounts going on right now. Gems are 33% off. That's the big one. And then discounts on chests, voice packs, all that sort of fun stuff. Everything you could ever want in Smite. Feeling discounted right about now. Ends March 27th. I believe that's tomorrow. So you need to get in game and get your gems now at a 33% discount. Happy birthday, Smite, for bringing us years of fun as well as some awesome competitive Smite action here in the SPL. And we got a lot of that here in game number 1. A unique draft from the Solar Scarabs. Actually held its weight for a little while here in this game. But it felt like by the end of things here, Trelly, the Tartarus Titans just had a little bit more of a consistent team comp. Their team fighting around the Fire Giant felt good, made some use of that global pressure, and cleaned things up.
Yeah, I think comp-wise, Paul's Morgan pick just matched up a little bit too well here. Obviously, being able to immune the Circuit ult damage is always a good time. That makes Scream not even want to look at him, which kind of makes it look like Paul's just free casting, but also it's just very difficult to get to this Morgan pick. It's very safe, especially when you have this Poseidon here that was just getting constantly dove. I mean, the double mage lane out of the Scarabs was, finding very little success after the early game, and at that point, once you have a rough start, it's kind of hard to continue that. Besides that early, the early pressure they were having.
Yeah, it was tough for Stuart. I mean, you're under your 2-1 tower, you drop your Kraken at your feet. That's about as good as it gets, and then you're dealing with this. I mean, this is Paul in this instance, but a double bat out of hell all game long just felt so difficult for the Solar Scarabs to deal with. And then even on the D transform, as we mentioned in picks and bans, Paul is so lethal on this Morgan pick, makes use of the CC, makes use of the stealth. And it was right around this point, you've already gotten Fire Giant, and so the game had already been broken open really here, Trelly. But it's this last bit of team fighting where the game kind of officially broke open. And I admire the creativity, I think, from Stuart to go to the Poseidon out of the duo lane. But maybe we're leaving that one in game 1. 2 and 4, could have been worse. Scream, I think, largely ineffective, though having 4 kills here for the Solar Scarabs. Really just felt like top to bottom, Trelly, the Titans had a more consistent and more effective game.
Yeah, to me, I mean, Stuart specifically does like these magical ADCs. He plays the Ulron, he plays the Freya. These picks were getting banned out from him quite a lot last year specifically. So maybe he's just trying out a new one, seeing if Poseidon can flex as another magical ADC, getting ready for this SPL season. I think probably leave that one in the rafters at least. If Bobby had a little bit more pressure, I think maybe it would have been better.
Just
but
ragging on Bobby.
I just think that the double mage lane specifically.
Yeah,
one of you has to bring pressure, and if you're not bringing it from the Poseidon, Nox, it didn't work for me specifically. All right.
No, you're right. You're right. I know that you and Bobby have a rapport with one another, and so that's not unexpected. But I admire the creativity, I think, from the Solar Scarabs in a couple of their last games. Namely, Stuart has played some more unique picks over the last handful of games. A couple games against the Kings, a 6-13 Scotty game. But then followed by a 16-7 Neath game, so more traditional in the first couple. And then Poseidon in the third game of the weekend that we've seen here from the Solar Scarabs. So will Stuart continue the trend of playing some things that are a little bit different? Stay tuned and find out. We'll find out right now. Picks and bans for game 2 already underway. Some mid-lane-minded bans, all of them, as a matter of fact, taken away from Paul as the Morgan, Zeus, and Tiamat will not be allowed to be played. On the flip side, still some jungle towards Scream in the ban column, as well as an RDO. Take that one.
Are you that impatient for your deaths?
But even with all those bans, a very strong pick in the Erlong Shen makes its way through to first pick.
Yeah, I definitely think they're happy with the Erlong, taking that away from Layers just in case he was wanting to whip that out. 3 bans against Paul. I'm sure he's probably used to that at this point. His hell is still open, obviously. That one hasn't been a ban. Maybe he doesn't want to even whip that out at this point. It's one of those pocket picks that we know he always has, so maybe he just wants to try something new. But he has to play something new, obviously, because he's not able to play that Zeus that we saw. He's not able to play the Tiamat, and the Morgan that we just saw is now taken away as well. So something new from Paul in that mid lane, hopefully. Obviously, now we have the Guan Yu and the Erlong. Double warriors on the Scarab side of the map, but on the other side, Titans. Kleena and Atlas, two very strong, very highly contested picks right now in the meta. And I think that's a very strong start to this Titans draft.
Yeah, and to your point here, Trelly, about Paul, Zeus and the Morgan, 2 picks that Paul's already played this weekend, and then Hebo was the different one there in the second of 2 games. So going to be something new, as you mentioned, for Paul. Daji ends up being the pick here for layers, Kleena and Atlas to start off. A very strong 3. On the flip side, you already got one of the mid lane picks locked in, and that's for Baronic. The Thoth, continued high level of presence for Thoth here over the last couple of weeks, Trelly. And then Dive, backline disruption is the name of the game. You get such a long range for Thoth. How are you going to disrupt that? Well, popping out of a wall, maybe a strong spot for Kleena. Daji could also potentially be a pretty good pick into Thoth.
Yeah, Daji being able to stick to that evade and punish pretty easily. No longer a stun on that dash, obviously, so you can't even cancel 1,000 cuts. Daji has a great matchup, no CC immunity as well. Erlong and Thoth are both going to have to expend beats. They don't want to get pulled into the powwow there, so just a great pick by Layers there to make sure he can just disrupt. Unless, of course, no, it's got to be Layers. There's no way. The Kleena's got to be solo. Yep. I'm giving this Daji to Layers 100%. So great pick up by Layers there to make sure that these 2 picks specifically right now are going to have a rough time. And then go to the ADC bans. I mean, Stuart's obviously been playing these mages, but they're saying just in case you want to whip out the Medusa, just in case you want to whip out the Izanami, we're going to take those off the table.
Poor Paul. Paul receives all 5 bans, and Thoth is already picked. So Paul is going to have to go 6th as far as potential pick priority, unless in his mind what he wanted to pick is outside of those bans anyway. You're right, though. Kleena will likely be solo here for SOT. SOT has played Kleena first game against the Oni Warriors, and then back-to-back NEM games. So it's been anything but Warriors in the solo lane for SOT so far this week.
Pity for you, I am
it looks
not
like
a
that'll
goddess
continue
of
on
mercy.
here this game. Freya ends up being the pick. We're going to assume for Cyclone Spin. And Cyclone Spin, the type of player who will go off meta from time to time. And so
Glory to Athens.
Freya might be off meta as far as all of the ADCs in the SPL go. I feel like Freya's still pretty in meta for the styles of picks that Cyclone Spin will play from time to time.
Yeah, Cyclone and Stuart both tried out these magical ADCs, as I was mentioning. So Cyclone, he goes to this set ADC every once in a while, the Frey. He does like to change it up a little bit. Great game on that Chernobog. So this time, going for something, Chernobog, not a great 1v1 potential, obviously. His fight is not really there. He's got the global presence. This time, though, Freya, some very solid 1v1 potential once you get online. The early pressure of a Freya is not quite there, but 2-3 items, the Freya fighting gets extremely potent here. And looks like
you're not going to get your wish.
Yeah, it looks like Stuart had, I guess, maybe not Stuart specifically, maybe the whole team as itself. So we have no problems with this Poseidon. But my one wish is there. There's no double mage in the duo lane. So a little bit more pressure with that Athena pick. It could be, what Bobby's on here. So that could open up a little bit of an avenue there to have Stuart alleviate some of that pressure.
Yeah, it's a good point. I'm misquoting you a little bit. Your wish was that there wasn't double mage in the duo lane, not so much that it was just straight up not a Poseidon all over again. So the fact that there's Athena there for a little bit more pressure on a consistent basis, not mage-style pressure, a win for the Solar Scarab. Hell ends up being the pick here. If it was set, I was thinking there might be a world, although I don't know if you want to stick Freya in the mid lane, but I guess we would probably have seen set more recently in mid than we would have seen Freya in mid, right? I think it's been a while since that happened. But with Hell there, have to imagine that ends up being the Paul pick.
Yep.
And I think this is the power of Paul. Not only does Thoth get picked, not only does Poseidon get picked, also 5 bans towards Paul. Paul gets last pick, and it ends up being a Hell, which is still a scary pick of Paul's.
Arguably one of his, definitely one of his top 5 gods in my head. It was heavily banned last, but that set mid definitely thought about for a couple of seconds there. He's whipped it out a few times again. Cyclone also likes to play in the ADC, so they could have flexed that a little bit even after the fact just to keep him guessing. But last pick Hell, that's a little
Imagine throwing 7 effective bans towards Paul, taking away 7 picks from Paul. And Hell still ends up being the pick. I think the Tartarus Titans just fine with that. Now that we get everything locked in here, I want to I want to zoom in on Daji and Kleedna, and specifically how they interact with Thoth and Poseidon here. Do you have concerns for the survivability of the backline of the Solar Scarabs here in this game?
Yeah, in my mind, the peel is not there. The Scarabs have a go button, and that's the Athena taunt. Then there's going to be a cavalry charge, maybe a blink to the backline from Scream, dropping Kraken, just dropping all sorts of damage. There's not much peel. You know, they're not going to say, hey, here's a shield, you know, here's a big cataclysm stun, those sort of things. They are going to be all out initiating, not trying to let this Freya get online, not trying to let these items get built. So the Solar Scarabs, in my mind, need to win this one pretty early if they want to have that late game success, because Freya, one of the hardest hyper carries in the game right now.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Freya needs some time to wind up. Can you get her there? Ends up being the question. And so you start to look at, my goodness, what the Solar Scarab balloon's coming out of nowhere. Just like this gem sale came out of nowhere, 33% off all gems right now until March 27th in game. Happy birthday, Smite. You look at Erlang Shen as the character that's going to be driving a lot of the early pressure here for the Solar Scarabs. If it ends up being Mannequin's Blink, Scream, the style of player that likes to make some early plays. If you're Scream, you're loading into this game. Are you putting your eggs in the duo side? Are you trying to keep Freya behind as long as possible?
I definitely think that if you could put some pressure that way. I mean, at this point, you do have to deal with the Atlas, which is a big peel tool, obviously. If you are going to go with the Blink, anytime you do want to Blink in there, you're going to just get picked up, and, you know, Freya can just walk away at that point. Once the Banish is leveled up, then you're going to have a really hard peel tool to go against. So Hell, for me, should be a pretty high contention point. If the Lotus Crown or the Helm is not built, Hell's going to have a rough time dealing with the Erlang. He can stick to it pretty well besides the cleanse there. So I do think, though, Freya needs to be shut down early, absolutely. Make sure that there's no sort of pressure in that duo lane and just try to not let her get online.
And every time there's a Hell, anti-heal becomes very important. Can the Solar Scarabs bounce back in the most important game of the set? Let's jump in and find out.
You know, and talking about that anti-heal, it's something that we got to see a good bit of last game, Gormizer. Stewart went into, like, what, third item, Toxic Blade?
Yeah.
Double Flat Pen has been a meta on these mages for a long time, so Divine Rune for Baronic. Could be seeing a lot out of here. It's JMX Gore, it's Doug here in game number 2 between the Titans and the Scarabs. What's got you giggling
We're
over
already
here?
seeing a little bit of it. There's an Ankh on board, which I don't think I've ever seen a first relic Ankh, and there's the Tainted Steel over there for Scary D.
It's also a Guan support.
Yeah, you know, I want to say that would catch me more off guard if
it wasn't
some
Bobby.
of my favorite memories of Smite way back when weren't with Guan support.
And Sun
I
Wukong.
remember, so this is just like old man ramblings at this point. It feels very much like that, but like launched, yeah, very much back in my day. But watching, it was the 2014 convention skin, and Trixtank was like the first person to play it competitively, and watching him then steal a fire giant that game was just sick. And he was playing Guan Yu.
Well,
that's how that relates. I forgot to mention that part.
Oh, okay. Let's say, where's the tie in here? We got the 2014, which that was a really good convention skin. It's like the purple and silver Guan Yu. Instead, it's the Master Guan Fu here by Inbound on the Guan this time around. If you want to get that skin, get your gems now. 33% off. They talked about it on the desk. We'll talk about it here one more time. But Inbound and Stewart, we don't have the double mage dual lane like we had last time. Instead, it's Cyclone now on a mage ADC of his own with Guan Yu. So we actually do have full frontliners on both sides of the board this time around. Pick up in against Inbound. Gets sent right through. Ankh gets popped by Inbound, and Cyclone's the one running low. Shell is enough to keep Cyclone up. But meanwhile, in the mid lane, Paul goes down to the 2v2 up against Scream and Baronic.
And that is a big kill. Not just because you shut down Paul, a little bit. The Hell is going to take a little bit of time. You get the beats, you get a kill, and you get it onto, I would argue, the best person on the Scarabs to pick up an early game kill, Scream, for it. The problem is you're still getting bullied over here.
Picked up again. Inbound did have the dash this time to get away, and he'll live through the clear in favor of Stewart and Inbound just by nature of this Freya more than anything. So no kill in this dual lane yet again. And Inbound, who was low, I mean, look at the help of that green buff MP5, his natural, doesn't even have his heal yet. If he had that online, Inbound would be looking nice and pretty right now.
Yeah, honestly, I like this Guan Yu. I don't know, like, you know, in comparison, I guess Freya Atlas, I like the Guan Yu Poseidon a little more early on, and it's only because of the Taolu Assault, right? The prot shred, the amount of DPS it can do. For the Inbound throughout this game, he's going to be able to get a lot of damage, and it's going to set up a lot of kills.
Oh no, Paul in trouble again, surrounded by both of the warriors of the Solar Scarabs, and it's Scream with the second kill. 2 now for the side of the Solar Scarabs. Jungle picked up by Aurora is Scream and Layers to shut him on down, but Layers is now low. And with Baronic showing up, Layers could be in danger. He wants to turn this one around. Will end up trading 1-for-1 as Aurora gets the kill on inbound.
So you kill Paul and Layers for Scream and inbound. Now, Scream did have the first blood bounty and a little bit of a lead, but it's still worthwhile for the Scarabs. They're going to be very happy with those couple of kills. Everybody except Aurora in that engagement, I guess, and Baronic towards the very end end up dying. And Aurora staying alive means a little bit, but he gets a kill back for his team, but it's not where you really want those to go, especially in comparison to a 2-1-1 jungler as well as a 1-0-1 mid laner. So a good start for the Scarabs in the 2v2, and they're going to be able to start really using that pressure. I mean, I expect to see Scream all over the map on this Erlong.
So far, he's been making most of his routes towards this mid lane. Got one in the mid, and now one up by that red buff of Paul. So not letting this Hell have an inch to breathe here, and that's really the name of the game against these Hells. When we talk about Hells coming back in, it's always, well, what's the answer to shut this down? 9 times out of 10, you say, just buy enough anti-heal, and she won't be able to heal through. Then you just have to worry about her damage. Some teams have answered by playing entirely around the Hell, kill everybody but them, and this Hell feels useless. But so far, the Solar Scarabs' answer has just been to kill the Hell right out. A blink by Layers in, gets 2 with the Pow-Lao, but whoo, that final judgment. That'll slam right through the back of Layers' head. That's half health off the jungler.
Yeah, Baronic just throwing it out for funsies there. And,
Why not?
Admittedly, yeah, if you connect like that and you force Layers to fall back, look, it's a TKO. It's a little bit of time. That Scream is up jungling. That Layers is not. And that means at least the right mid camps and maybe an invade onto the back camps as well from Scream. So, again, a little bit of experience that you're going to be able to get from that. 2 of those picked up by Sot. And it looks like Scream might want to fight.
Scream used the turtle. Does still have the taunt if he needs to try and stay alive. But he's got some backup now with Scary D. Double taunt. One gets beads away. And SOT will be able to close out the kill. And tie it up now for the Titans.
That's just a good read from Sot. Pop the beads, get the kill, shut down Scream a little bit longer. Now, it's the inverse of what had just happened. Layers has a lot of uptime without having to worry about Scream, so he should be able to get a little more farm and, of course, get things online a little bit quicker because of that. And you can see it, but Scream just gone back. Okay, so he did have enough to get the Jotuns. I looked down, and he was still at Tier 2, and I was like, no way did he die just before the Tier 3. And so he does still get a power spike here, and he'll be able to match. But it shows that the Titans aren't going to just take this laying down. They are fighting back, and they're doing it in a very constructive way. I think getting kills onto Sot so far in Layers in the last couple of engagements has really opened up more opportunities for them to do well.
And even more anti-heal on the side of the Solar Scares. You see our first 2 may actually make it 3 with that Curse Donk earlier. We also have the Tainted Steel from Scary D as he started out with that, and now Divine Ruin online for Baronix and that flat pen that these mages oh so love this day and age. And he'll be able to pick that one up first. Can still go for that Spear of Desolation if he so chooses right afterward. That's been the most common first-second item combo when you pick up this double pen.
Yeah, it's either Spear of Desolation. I would say Spear of the Magus, but honestly, I don't know that we've seen pretty much any Spear of the Magus pickups. This is a big fight, though. Inbound took a lot of damage.
Takes 2 in. Paul is here, but Baronic grabs 1, and then Paul right after Final Judgment. From Baronic will slam Paul. That puts him in critical, but now with SOT rotating in, it makes it a 3 versus 2. But the heals from Paul keep Aurora nice and healthy. Scary D silenced out by SOT. The dash, not enough, so he needs the help from Aurora. But Baronic is able to find another kill in this fight. One up against Paul. Baronic, though, can't find the dash in time, and SOT cleans up for the killing spree.
It's just very funny to me because Cleena screams with that cone. And she really is just yelling at them to die very loudly. And admittedly, I would. Look at her. She's absolutely menacing. I think it's impressive for Baronic pulling it back. 3-1-1. He's been able to get... That Scream's going to get me every time now. And he's screaming against Scream. It works out even better. Either way, you get some good kills if you're Baronic, but you lose out on a good chunk. And you really get to see, I think, the difference between a Scary D rotation and a Solo or Troll rotation right now. Scary D rotation means you get taunts, which means setup, which means Scream, Baronic, or Stewart need to do the work, much like Scream just did the work on Paul in mid lane. If Solo or Troll comes over, he's just going to kill you. Nothing else to it.
What perfect timing there by Scream. Waited until Aurora went back to base, and the instant that back animation finished and Aurora was gone, it was immediate blink onto Paul. Got his beads, got the cleanse right after. Aurora does not save that red buff, though, against Scream and inbound. The invade by the boys in blue here. The Scarabs able to get that one away. Baronic still pelting damage out here with those hieroglyphic shots up against Aurora. The Solar Scarabs down in the kills. Down very slightly in the gold and the XP department. It's a very close-knit game here, only 7.5 minutes in, Gore.
Yeah, very drastic. Again, when we were watching the first set, the Leviathans were able to pull up, a couple thousand lead early on. And some of the games that didn't get quite that massive, but they always felt they had a little bit of a lead. Now, though, it's slowing things down. I think I see you making a face, and now that I look down, I think I see why. The Caduceus Shield, first for inbound, maybe makes a little bit of sense, though. I mean, in terms of, like, healing and keeping your teammates alive. Maybe not in terms of his own personal survivability and usual tank play, but I don't know. I don't hate it is the best way to describe it. Yeah, being able to get it, again, very little prots, a little bit of health, but your healing's increased to teammates in the area by 20%, so he heals more, which is going to be helpful. Cyclone Spin gets taken down as well, so you're seeing, I think, what this team's idealization is in its full form. Scary D can ult and taunt, set people up, inbound heals them up, and they keep going.
Scream in the middle of 3. Palau up, a pick up by Aurora will toss Scream right to the depths of the Palau, but it's Aurora who gets the credit for the kill, but Baronic again, final judgment will clip the backline, taking down Layers, and Aurora's health being chipped away by the mid laner. It's a double for Baronic.
And now, look, I mean, Paul can come in. He's got good damage. In fact, he's getting a lot on the Baronic with side here. They're going to get the kill.
That's going to be one turn around. Can SOT find another one? Now
he's
that
looking
Paul,
for him.
the heal is there to make sure that SOT can keep going forward. Scary D does get the dash off, but SOT's dash will catch him right back in. Another preemptive beads will get SOT the double, maybe even give him the triple right after inbound. How far can you run, buddy? The answer's not far enough. Paul finds him.
And that's just a huge swing for the Titans. I mean, that kicks off, and it looks like it's going to go well. You get, again, another good kill from Baronic, a great ult. But everybody gets caught up. I mean, and now they're still fighting. Scream might just get caught out.
Scream finds the pin up against Paul, but SOT with the dash and the sidestep out of Paul gets him away from the tidal wave from Stewart, who just can't close the distance. Tartarus Titans pull this one back in, now up 12-9, and we're not even at the 10-minute mark yet, Gore.
6-0-2. It is Solar Troll that I want to talk about here. First off, I think kind of reminding his teammates or old teammates what he is capable of. In case they had forgotten some of the Osiris games that happened at Worlds. I mean, the fact that they stuck around in that engagement, as well as getting aggressive, kill off Scream a second time, and then went to push forward. I mean, Sa was gonna chase down Stewart. I don't know if Inbound really wants this.
Inbound does get some help from the final judgment. It's not enough to save him. Scary D goes in to find Cyclone Spin. Dash innovative punishes good by Baronic. Kraken will throw Aurora up into the air, and the Solar Scarabs can find this kill. No, Baronic misses just one too many shots, but now Paul and Layers on the resurgence. Will they die for the kill? No. It will just be the purple buff. The Scarabs can come up with their fruits of taking down Cyclone.
Now let me tell you something about Freya. It's great when you shut her down and slow her down, because the longer she takes to get those items online, you're buying yourself a little bit of time each time. Here's the downside about going against a Freya. She's going to get those items eventually. At some point in this game, unless you can end it before she buys them, she will have... I'm going to give her another, get the tier 3 here on this ring. The next full item she gets after that, all of a sudden Cyclone Spin is a heavy hitter and is someone that is almost impossible to get to and safely take down. You need 3 people. You need to be worried if you're Scary D. Luckily, I think that Scary D is going to be the engager, is more than likely willing to trade out their life for someone like Baronic to get the kill. And so that really does set them up as time continues going forward. But I think you're going to need a couple of those to put Cyclone a little further behind and slow down that Freya a little longer to feel truly confident.
Isn't it wild how much the items have changed over time for a god like Freya, to where, years ago it was, once Freya gets her 3rd item online, she's good to go. Now we're still in that. Once she gets her 3rd item online, it's good to go. But it's changed.
There was that murky Season 7 area where it was, once Freya finishes Ring of Hecate, the game's over.
To be fair, though, that was like every single magical ADC at that point. Gold Fury will feel the wrath of the Scarabs. That one will go down. Aurora too late to get there. Final judgment by Baronic will clean that one up. But what I was going to get to, I remember it used to be once Freya got Boots, Hasten Fatalis, and then Bancross Talon. Once she's got those 3 items, she's good to go. Now, in this case, it's like
you don't need shoes anymore, J-Mac.
We don't need shoes. Those are gone. They've been gone. They've almost been gone a year now, Gore. I can't believe I'm saying that at this point. We're like 9 months into the boots being removed from the game.
It feels like it's been longer, honestly.
It really does. Feels like it's been a whole breath of fresh air. Scary D needs a breath of fresh air to get away from this fight, and luckily he's got Baronic to supply that oxygen to him, give him a second chance at life. Solar Scarabs, though, they're going to lose out on a lot of their jungle. Blue buff we'll go over to the 6-0 SOT on Kleena.
Now, I just saw Scary D on that back. So first off, survives, then gets persistent teleport. Uses that to go back over to the right lane. I see a lot of people over there. Might not have been the play. That tower's gonna go down pretty soon. But realistically, the talk is going to instead be, look at what you can have. You have an ult and a persistent teleport.
You don't have a Cyclone from the side of the Titans, and you might not have a Scary D who just got back to lane, just used the ult, just used the teleport, and doesn't have anywhere to go. It's layers time, baby. Tartarus Titans find a pick on the right side. They'll sacrifice Cyclone to make sure Scary D stays down.
And they're going to be able to get a little more aggressive than the Scarabs. Scarabs have to go through a tier 1 and a tier 2, where meanwhile it's 3 versus a tier 2 over in right.
Paul under fire by Scream in the mid, but the beats from the mid laner out of Paul will make sure that he stays alive. Big damage right back in. Paul healing up, even uses the Aegis to hold out. Paul needs a little bit more damage, but now that Inbound has turned the corner, Paul might just be the one in danger. Preemptive cleanse, misses the first ability, hits the third in the dark stance, and needs one more hit. It's not enough damage. Big heal up will save Paul's life, but he misses the one right after. Scream is just gonna make it out.
I mean, just dancing in the red buff. Looks great for Scream to be able to dodge all of those. Unfortunate for Paul that it doesn't go down. And Paul uses the Aegis, the beads, gets the mantle proc as well. A lot of the safety that Paul has is now on cooldown, and so Scream living through that means he can now go back and do it again, but next time he's going to be able to get the kill a lot cleaner and not have to worry too much about it. Granted, there was a lot of damage from Paul, and that's something that's going to need to be worried about by most of the Scarabs. Hell can be kind of sneaky with just the Doom Orb online and now that tier 1 spear. That hits surprisingly hard whenever it is all picked up. So I'm going to continue watching specifically Paul's damage numbers, because he's going to be, and his healing numbers really, he's second on the damage charts. But if he's doing that plus healing really well, then you'll understand why it's worthwhile every time he gets this guy.
I'm sorry, seeing that image was really funny to me. The fact that Paul is second in healing as an actual healer, and Aurora is the one beating him out, and he's only got a Benevolence to his name. That Benevolence has healed more than Paul has so far this game. 300 more, almost to be exact here. Aurora, the real healer of this team.
You know what? Paul, I'm going to save you here. Only a little bit, though. It does only count healing towards teammates. So all that healing where Paul's keeping himself alive.
That's fair.
It's not that he's not healing enough. It's just that he's selfish, J-Mac. It's completely different.
It makes it totally better out here. Paul the selfish healer, SOT, sitting inside the wall, will jump out to Scream at Inbound as the tier 1 tower goes down to the rest of the team. Final Judgment. Charged up, but not launched. Instead, it's Scream who goes into the back, finds layers in Paul. Palau, though, should pull at least one in. Scream is still pelting away at Paul, who should go down here, but the shells are keeping him alive. The damage from Inbound is enough, but it's mid for mid down. Aurora only finds one with the pickup. It's Scream throwing him right into the clutches of SOT.
Stewart's low, but he manages to disengage. Just now, just Aurora. I don't think anybody's in danger here other than the support for the Titans.
SOT jumps himself out of the wall to try and find Stewart, but he gets yanked back in. Scream making sure to keep his carry alive. SOT doesn't find the damage. The Whirlpool is good, and Scream will finally shut down Solar Troll.
Scary's low, and I don't know that Layers actually wants to keep fighting. At this point, they're low. I think everybody wants to disengage if possible. A lot of mana that's missing on the side of the Scarabs. The people that have the health and the mana don't want to be in this fight or aren't going to be able to get things done. And so instead, I patiently await. I like what Stewart's able to do. A good rotation from him, good damage, and he ends up getting out of there. It looked like he should have died earlier on. You had called about it last game. He goes Toxic Blade. He does it again this time. And now they've got 2 of those, plus a Brawlers on Scream, plus the Divine Ruin, plus the Tainted Steel, plus the Cursed Ankh. And there's a lot of anti-heal, as we had asked for earlier. And I think that we're going to get that control. And that showcases itself all throughout that fight.
Roar, chunked down. Baronic has Final Judgment, but just out of range to fire that one off against Aurora. Aurora can rest on the laurels of him being just far enough away from a thought. Which is a hard thing to do, is get some distance on a god that has so much range to him. For now, the Solar Scarabs will clear up the Oracle Harpies and start up this Oni Fury, but they're not going to be able to do it alone here. The Tartarus Titans have sniffed it out. And SOT at the front line with this cleanup will silence out Scary D, who gets pulled back in by the gravity pull of Aurora, and Paul picks up the kill, up to the Powwow goes Layers. He'll find 2, but only 1 gets yanked back in, and Scream goes down.
Now, he didn't move up a ton. Cyclone, though, the damage numbers, you've got to be able to watch that. Not only does he have 3 of the rings online now, but he's going to be climbing up. He hits really hard alongside Paul, and it makes it so difficult. Plus, look at what Solo War Troll can do. Just look at what this guy unhinged is capable of right now. It's too much to handle. 7-1 and 5 from the Kleena, plus the damage coming from elsewhere, plus the CC that they have capable of. There's a lot that the Scarabs have to focus on. And they've done a good job dealing at least with the healing. It's the damage numbers now that are getting a little more out of control. Veronica's keeping up, Scream's up there as well, but I want to see a heavy push from Stewart to be able to make sure that he maintains on those damage charts.
13,000 damage out of the Kleena so far. 3K healing now out of Paul, so he'll finally be able to top up those healing charts as far as who's done the most healing, which is now becoming even more impressive with just how much anti-heal has been picked up. Now we throw a Pestilence into the mix by Scary D, so we have almost every single anti-heal item that can be bought in the game.
Yeah, what's left? Like Contagion? Is it just Contagion?
I think it's just Contagion left. Now we only have gods with actual anti-heal in their kits. Would be the only way to make this even worse. As the blue buff goes down to the Solar Scarabs, stealing that one away from the Tartarus Titans.
I'm impressed with the Scarabs' commitment to this. Most teams, and admittedly, it always ends up faltering, right? Most teams will do half this much, and it'll be half as effective, right? You'll still get a lot of healing on the Titans. So realistically, this should make it a lot easier to shut down Paul. I will say what I said and echo this again. He's still going to do a lot of damage. Even if you shut his healing down, he is still going to hit incredibly hard. They've got a Shell. They've got a Horrific. They've got a lot more to try and control the team fight and keep people alive on the side of the Titans. But I think that this is a good look for the Scarabs as of right now, at least keeping that part balanced. The downside is, again, some of the damage numbers where they're going to be coming from. I see Baronic hitting pretty hard. I see Scream doing a lot of work, but they've kind of put the targeter on themselves.
SOT now surrounded by 4 people inside this blue buff wall. He is looking for any direction that he can go, but there is somebody at every point. Inbound was the only one at that side, though, so that's the easy exit call now for SOT. Scary D finds Aurora with the taunt. Kraken is good. Aurora should go down, and it's Scream who finds the final shot, but Layers up on the Powwow only pulls in 1 thanks to the beads on the side of the carries for the Scarabs.
Yeah, but look, 2 relics down now for Baronic and both relics down for Stewart. And the ult's getting used by the Scarabs. They only get Aurora and the Powwow on the other side, plus, I guess, technically the Shell from Aurora. And so I think the Titans have a good chance of being able to fight back into this, even with a numbers disadvantage.
SOT still has at least 1 charge of that ultimate. Cyclone still holding on to his ult as well. Scary D goes in with the taunt. SOT beads and dash out, screaming back at them, but to no avail. The Solar Scarabs will start up the Fire Giant one more time. And now is the question of who on the Titan steps forward to try and seal this one away. Scary D finds the taunt onto SOT, but silenced out right after, and the Fire Giant has finally been leashed.
And I like that. Again, it's a 50-50 coin toss. Scarabs have the numbers advantage, but they're lacking in relics. They're lacking in ult economy. And realistically, the secure, right? With Stewart not having Kraken, you could have every other ult there. I guess Final Judgment as well. And it doesn't feel that confident. The same thing should be said for the Titans. They don't have a lot of secure here, so if Final Judgment's up, Baronic can just walk up and take this.
Kraken is almost back. Scary D will go in with Scream to the back line, but not find a whole lot of damage there. Scream should get pulled right into this Powwow and spells his doom, but a Kraken slams into the top of 3 people. Paul, SOT still low, but not down just yet. Scary D on slivers of health. Cyclone needs to find those shots, and he does. Him and Paul team up to find 3. And a massive pickup by Aurora. Cyclone with the triple and the deicide for the Titans.
That's just painful. You just scooped up and held in front of Freya, and she's AoE. I mean, it is just the perfect scenario for Cyclone Spin. And getting free damage out there, now you get a full wipe, a triple kill picked up. And the rest of the Scarabs, everybody going to be sitting at home. Fire Giant taking a little bit of time here, but should still end up going over towards the Titans. And now it's just the game of don't die to the pit. They're going to be able to back off. J-Mac, I mean, that is such a massive swing. Not just the deicide, but what they're going to be able to get out of it. I mean, watch the items purchased, watch this lead. All of the things that they just scooped up are all going to just enhance the next fight. Cyclone Spin goes incredible throughout that, but you get a lot from the Hell, and realistically, you get a good presence of mind. I mean, Solar Troll, sort of tanky with this build, just because he's an assassin, he's a little squishier still. Without a roar, they just kept the Scarabs at bay long enough, and then once the Kraken was used, not on the Fire Giant, that seemed like an easy go button. And that was a big Kraken from Stewart. Just didn't get enough done, didn't open up a lot of the opportunities I think they wanted. And man, just such good retaliation. Aurora's nuts. That's all I can think about is picking people up. Oh, that was so pretty.
Aurora was like a bouncer at the club, just grabbed the enemy team and said, all right, you're done now, Cyclone. Just go ahead and end this job right now.
Yeah, by the scruff of their necks.
I really did just pick them up. I really just picture it like in those cartoons where the bouncers grab them both by like the collars of their shirts and just toss them out. That was Aurora in that last team fight. But the Scarabs are trying to strike back on a base race of their own. It seems that most of the Tartarus Titans are going to go back to try and at least slow this down. Phoenix on the right side, it's a big frenzy pop through. Kraken goes out, Phoenix does not go down, and SOT and Layers team up in the 2 for the takedown 2, make it 3, and with Cyclone back, it's a 4th one down, only Scary D left alive.
And you know what, Scary D? Notably, the only one nowhere near the base. I think those things might be related, J-Mac. He was not willing to go into that fight, whether he was just a little bit late or if it just wasn't going to be the call, not wanting to lose every single member of the team. But look, you've got so long, 20 seconds before inbounds back, 25 for Baronic. There should at least be a Phoenix here for the Titans. The question about pushing further into the Titan room is going to be whether or not they can stagger Scary D and then get a kill onto inbounder Baronic almost instantly.
Big damage onto Scary D from Paul. Aurora will slow Scary D down with the horrific pick him up. Tried to toss him against the wall, but the beats from Scary D keep him up. Mid lane, Phoenix goes down, and now it's 5 versus 3. Baronic coming back up, but the ultimate from Aurora is chipping away at this Titan. Baronic with some big damage on the hieroglyphic shots, but inbound goes down. Layers credit to the kill. Paul picks up Scary, and the rest of the Titans take down the Solar Scarabs Titan to make this a 2-0 start in this best of 5.
I think it's a really good approach from the Scarabs. Again, a great early game, but then a couple of team fights in the mid towards the late, like typically around that 18-minute mark, both in game 1 and here in game 2. The rest of everything starts to crumble around them, right? You see it start to fall apart. They get a good kill onto the Atlas. Aurora's dead, and that's the go button, but they used a lot of the good ults in that process, so all of a sudden it's shaky to dance around that Fire Giant. You don't have the same control that you had before. Aurora comes up, hugs some people, Cyclone punches them real hard, and from that point forward, the Titans just had a massive lead.
I'm going to be watching that replay time and time again in my head there. What a great turnaround play here for the Titans to take game number 2 and put themselves 1 game closer to taking the set. Can they do it in 3? We'll find out right after this.
Show you how I'm about to get down. So keep it up right now. So keep it up. So keep it up with me. I need to move. I need to feel the beat. Don't be a fool. You wanna hang with me. Life isn't easy. You gotta roll the dice. You wanna change. Join the paradise. So bring it on if you wanna hang with me. Right.
massive. It's supernatural. Keep it factual. You know you're maxing back. Look at the way they hold they chat. Honestly amazing. I want you on occasion. I can do you favors that I know you won't do for. Yeah, yeah. I know what you wanted. You got it gorgeous. You bet you're a token. It's talking me nice. Just ease it up on me. I'm fighting the feeling. I'm keeping it cordial, yeah. I want you closer. You know where you started. You know that I need it. I can see it in your eyes, the way you move is so amazing. You say what I wanna hear. Tell me it's all for me. Just show me you want it. You're ready. You say you're ready for it. You're ready. What are we waiting on? I know it's on your mind. You're ready. You want it for it. You've heard some things people talk like they know the real me. Let me clear the air. I've made my mistakes. I've learned how to behave. I know I'm a stranger, but I feel acquainted. Reading the signs, we both got our damages. I don't wanna play it safely. With you, it's different. You've been what I'm missing. Real talk, no fiction. I get lost in how I'm feeling. Yeah. I want you closer. You know where you started. You know that I need it. I can see it in your eyes, the way you move your body, baby. You say what I wanna hear. Tell me it's all for me. Just show me you want it. You're ready.
It's a 2-0 lead for the Tartarus Titans in our second and final matchup of the day and our second and final semifinal of the day. Was that correct?
That was
sounded
correct.
very strange in my head, but I guess it was right. Our final semifinal of the day. Maybe that's what it was. The final semifinal of the day. Tartarus Titans one game away from taking this one 3-0 and moving on for a World's Finals rematch against the Atlantis Leviathans tomorrow. More the same, I think, here in game number 2. The Titans and the Scarabs scrapping it out earlier on, and then just some very pivotal team fighting around the big objectives. Big difference maker here for the Tartarus Titans. And Trelia, as you look back at game 2, obvious that the Scarabs are here to scrap and fight a little bit. They're staying relevant in these games. Maybe some compositional choices, team fighting choices, things like that down the stretch with the big difference makers.
Yeah, I mean, Scream was finding some early success onto Paul early. I feel like Paul definitely felt the brunt of that early pressure from the Scarabs. Had to pick up a second item, Mantle of Discord. Once those stuns started proccing and like self-peeling that way, once Paul was able to live through these fights, it definitely changed the whole dynamic. SOT obviously getting a lot of early kills. I think 6 or 7 of these early kills had a huge lead in the solo lane specifically. And pretty much all of that in tune with stalling for Cyclone Spin to get this late game fray online. That was the big decision maker for me.
Yeah, Cyclone Spin was never put too far behind. I mean, 1 and 3 doesn't look great, but this is at 21 minutes. I mean, Cyclone was able to get some itemization online anyway. Yeah, and then how about this team fight from Cyclone? Gets taunted in, takes half of his health and damage, and then the rest of the fray kit.
Then Aurora picks them both up. Yep, that was
fantastic game from Aurora. And Aurora's really stood out to me. There's a nice triple kill from Cyclone Spin. Effectively ends this game. Aurora has really stood out to me, I think, on this Atlas pick here over the last couple of days, where we've seen more and more supports in the league picking up this pick. But I think Aurora's looked exceptionally good on the Atlas. It was, 100% kill participation in one of the matches yesterday early on, 3 and 17 here for Aurora, affecting 20 of the kills that the Titans had. So in a continued meta where Atlas is at the forefront of the conversation, or one of the supports that's closer to the forefront of the conversation, I think Aurora's really impressed me.
Aurora outdamaged Layers and Cyclone that game. I mean, that's how you know your Atlas is really swinging there. He doesn't really have too much damage in the kit. The ult's pretty solid, and he's got a little bit of poke, but just constantly dashing in, picking up multiple targets, bringing them back into his squad. You're 100% right. Aurora, the peel alone on Paul, just trying to keep his mid laner alive, would have, it would have looked very solid to me. And then everything he was able to do late game, just this pick for me, they did 6 total bans towards Paul at this point. Maybe taking Atlas away from Aurora could be a good place to look.
I guess it's the mentality question is 5 bans and then 2 mage picks take away all 7 effectively from Paul.
Right.
Is that much effort? Is the hell that much worse than any of the other 7 that end up getting taken away by Paul, or are you better off banning something else away from someone else? To your point there, Trelly.
Yeah.
Right now, Solar Scarab's happy outside of the Erlang Shen, so we will take away the Zeus still. We will take away the Morrigan still. But the Erlang Shen, a bit of a change-up. And the Titans have had it pretty easy here. They've just kept the bans Ardio, Bastet, Gilgamesh. Let's mitigate Scream as best as we can. And a bit of a pivot, though, for the Solar Scarabs. They're going to take Clean first, get that one out of SOT's hands.
Yeah, that leaves that Tiamat open that they had to ban away last time for the Titans. So if Paul does not want to reach that deep into his god pool this time around, he definitely could just pick that Tiamat here. At this point, I feel like he's fine with just, taking whatever he's dealt at this point. They're throwing a lot of bans his way. Maybe they won't pick it just because they know if he doesn't, they'll throw 2 more bans his way and then his teammates can get what they want.
Man.
But there it is. There's that Atlas pick that has been so detrimental. Aurora has been insane. I mean, we can't harp on it enough how much he's been able to accomplish on this god, and they gave it to him again. In turn, taking away the cleanup from the SOT, which in its own right, SOT was kind of nuts on that pick as well. But, I don't know if they got the better of this one because, Aurora was he's a part of so much.
He is. 5 games played for Atlas, not Aurora specifically. Aurora's played 2 or 3 of those games. 100% win rate, though, for Atlas over the course of this week. Paul was very joking. It was very jokingly tilted. Maybe there's a crumb of truth in it yesterday because up again, Paul was just getting focused down by the Warriors. It was very intentional. The Warriors were just going all in trying to kill off Paul. And so after they won the set, Paul was like, God, they were just focusing me, man. I was going to say, Paul's just throw him a bone. He got focused all day yesterday. He got 7 bans thrown towards him in the second game of this set. I was hoping the Titans would just give him a little something, let him pick in one of the first 3, give him a pick that he wants to play, but not to be. And now the Solar Scarabs can throw some bans towards Paul if they want to continue the trend.
Yeah, I have
they set in game 2.
I've got no doubts that if we listen to their comms right about then, they're like, "Hey, Paul, do you want to get Tiamat?" He was just like, "No, it's fine." Like that's probably exactly
right, he's
what
been a team player.
Yeah, just, you guys get what you want. The Atlas is open. I know SOT likes that Nemesis so far. Maybe we could flex it towards layers if we want to. You guys just go. I'll just take the brunt of this one. Maybe if we win this one, next game we'll be able to get me what I want. That sort of thing.
Yeah, in Paul's mind, we're ending this one here in game 3. Maybe in the finals tomorrow we can get me something a little bit earlier on in the draft. Zhang Kui also banned out, which I find very intriguing. I have no doubt that Paul Zhang Kui is good, right? Because it's Paul. That doesn't stand out to me as like
a Paul
one
god.
of his top picks. You know what I mean? But the Solar Scarabs may be sensing that in the current meta, it is a strong pick. So 4 out of the 5 bans end up going towards Paul. There is no mid lane pick yet for the Solar Scarabs, and so that is a little bit different. There is an ADC pick, and it looks like for Stuart, for the first time this set, it won't be Poseidon. We're going to give him something a little bit more standard in the ROM, and Paul will end up picking last.
Man, I've come to the realization that this Cthulhu is not guaranteed in Scary D's hands because it's inbound.
That's right.
Yep, he did bring it out yesterday. So that Cthulhu also a
You
flex.
sound a bit dejected.
No, that's not it at all. It was just, how hard he was harping on that. Cthulhu is a better Ganesha was the exact quote. So, it could just go in that right. And it looks like that confirms it. Either the Thor or the Clean are going into the solo lane, and that Cthulhu is going to be inbound support pick. And it looks like, what?
Watch it. Somehow, in some weird way, it's going to be Rom mid, and they're just going to give Stu Poseidon again. That shouldn't happen, to be clear. But why not? Let's just make it 3 games in a row for Stu here and make some things interesting. So I would assume, I guess really Cleedna or Thor can go solo lane, and then the other would go into the jungle, and then Cthulhu support in all likelihood here for the Solar Scarabs. But taking a little time to think about their final pick here. And the world's still pretty open here for Paul with what he wants his last pick to be. And I say that through
Morgan Le Fay.
a pick and 5 bans that the Solar Scarabs have thrown out there. But Morgan Le Fay ends up being the pick here. I would say this is the closest to standard we've seen a Solar Scarabs draft so far this set.
Yep, and the Morgan Le Fay, our pick Bronic does like pretty well, I would say. So he's probably happy with that one. The Tiamat still available, which was banned away from Paul, but a Hades Hover is what we are looking at.
No, I don't want
right
Tiamat.
now.
I want Hades.
Yeah, I mean, into this draft, I mean, I guess no pick to me really screams that Hades just destroys them, but, lack of CC immunity, lack of dashes, that's what I would think, for that ultimate, the Pillar of Agony, I believe. So that seems like what I would be drafting it into. It is a lot of healing. Early pressure, not so much there, but he's a tanky sort of mage. So maybe Paul's like, hey, I'm tired of getting dove. And now I'm coming to the realization maybe he's just hovering random things, and I should stop analyzing each hover.
Well, no, I mean, technically both of them
Go
are
forth, my children, and take over this land.
We end up going back to the obvious pick by the end of it. I'm thinking there's a Tiamat available. It's Paul. No shot that a Hades or an Anubis takes precedence over that pick, but
Just
for a moment there it might have. Tartarus Titans finalize their draft with this Tiamat. Achilles, Izanami, Atlas, and Nem all around this pick. So again, with the Nem first pick, I was wondering if that might be Sot over in the solo lane, but I think Achilles all but confirms that Nem will be in the jungle. Achilles for SOT, and I actually like Achilles for Sot. I think the ability to be aggressive and trade is something that SOT really likes, and Achilles can help him with that.
I'm not 100% convinced. I still
You
think
think it could be Achilles jungle?
Layers might be whipping out the Achilles jungle, and just because of how many times Sot's played this Nem solo, at this point, that's just what's lingering on my mind. It could go either way.
Yeah,
You're
but
right.
think back to like set 1 with Panda Cat and Uller, and there was an Artemis in that game. And we're for sure there's no way Panda Cat breaks the streak, right?
You're right.
But this is not Panda Cat, right? This is the Tartarus Titans. This is SOT. We got to give him his own track record. He's played Nem. He's played the Kleedna up to this point. So until that changes, maybe we do assume that it is the Nem. Up against Kleedna, Cthulhu, Rom, Thor, and Morgan Le Fay. Do you like the draft that the Scarabs are bringing here to Game 3?
Yeah, the Scarabs finally something pretty consistent, something that we would expect from them. I like Stewart on the Rom, unless they're doing some sort of random switch like we were talking about. But I do think that it's a safe pick. He can stall out pretty well. It does decently into Izanami as well, sort of fighting in that auto attack. Both of them clearing with their auto attacks on the wave. So maybe they're just going to be for a very slow sort of lane instead of the crazy action-packed double mage sort of thing we've been going for it recently as the Frey and the Poseidon, that sort of thing. So I like the duo lane specifically. The Cthulhu is another question mark for me, obviously. Bobby has showed some success, some not success. I'm really not ready to give it my seal of approval just yet.
What would you say the strengths of this Cthulhu support are, though? If you're not ready to fully jump in, where do you think it does succeed? Where do you think it can find some value?
It like I said last time, it's great from ahead. You're getting in there. You're creating so much disruption. You have a little bit of like a heal toward your squad. So he's got the small amount of peel, and I say that very loosely, a very small amount of peel, but just crazy engage. It's a good W key button, and if you're ahead, it helps the snowball get rolling. It just hasn't, I haven't seen the weight of this pick just yet.
Right, haven't seen it at all.
Yeah.
Tartarus Titans have found their value in their draft all throughout this set so far. And in games where the Scarabs have kept things close, right? In the early part of Game 2 there, the Scarabs even have a slight lead. And then the Titans feel just a little bit more consistent down the stretch. So, and I'm really worried here for the Scarabs because it's Aurora on Atlas and it's Paul on Tiamat. And those are two picks with two players. In my mind, until they prove to me that there's an answer to it, I have to put my chips in that corner. Not only is Atlas undefeated, or not only is Aurora undefeated on this pick all week, the pick in general hasn't lost just yet. So Atlas has been finding pressure, and Aurora's been looking really good on it. Tiamat is strong here for Paul. Wondering if the Solar Scarabs have some answers, and those questions will be answered. Game number 3 between the Scarabs and the Titans.
An important one here for the Scarabs to turn the set back around and have a chance at moving on to the finals, but they're going to have to do it 3 straight up against the Tartarus Titans here, starting with just game number 3. It's J-Mac, Gore, and Doug. One more time with the Solar Scarabs first, the Titans. We've been talking a lot about support relics and support starts, and this might be the most normal start that we've seen out of Inbound so far, going with Benevolence into Glowing Emerald, and now a horrific emblem for his first relic.
And honestly, I kind of like it against slowing things down overall at the very beginning, so you can kind of keep people locked in with you, although Izanami has a dash, so maybe not going to keep them as locked in as early as you would maybe like. But again, I think scales really well into late. The upgrades I love for Horrific, but now he's getting pulled back.
Inbound picked up, doesn't have the level 2 yet, so he doesn't have his dash. It's Cyclone Spin to turn it back around with the big help of Aurora on this Atlas. And this is the problem when we talk about feeding the hot hand. Sure, we usually go with that round in a carry, but Aurora has played basically nothing but Atlas this whole weekend. You can't give it to him 3 in a row.
Yeah, he is vibing on this pick. I mean, he has gotten really, really good pulls, and he is just causing so much trouble for everybody. Same thing to be said for the solo lane. Look, Scary's he's lucky they're only level 2 and that we're a minute in. Otherwise, that tier 1 wouldn't do enough to pull them back. But that's a interesting and very hyper-aggressive play. There's the word that Layers was going for.
Tower, probably with a little buffs to it, also stopping him through.
Yeah.
Now that those towers do hit a little bit harder. Though when you are only level like 2, doesn't really matter. You're probably going to die in like 2 to 3 tower shots anyways. So for now, that tower is enough safety for Scary D. Again, still being chipped away by this Nemesis solo. Assassin solo lane has become the name of the game so far in this tournament. With some of the more obvious ones from last season, such as Camazotz, and we saw Thor way back when. Now we're seeing Clean Bastet, and Nemesis, surprisingly enough, making her way on that list.
Yeah, honestly, the fact that Solar Troll has been playing as well on this pick as he has, and Charlie had called it out, that it was going to be an Achilles jungle because it just feels like it fits so well to have this Nemesis go to solo the way Solar Troll's been playing it. And he's getting aggressive. I mean, what was it, game 1? We saw the Scarabs sit over there, put 3 deaths onto Solar Troll, and try to stop that lane from existing. And they might even be able to find one here, but then 10 minutes later, Solar Troll rotated in and made a big impact anyway. Like, they put a lot of investment in him early on, and I like this left side oriented fight from them as opposed to the right side, just because I think controlling Cyclone Spin and Aurora gives you a lot more opportunities in the mid game than trying to slow down Solar Troll.
And that purple buff did get secured by the Scarabs, so Stuart can walk over and pick that up if he so chooses, and he will choose to do so. Meanwhile, Cyclone gets a little bit of solo XP by taking his own purple buff. Aurora just making sure that Inbound doesn't walk that way. So First Blood went the way of the Tartarus Titans, up against Inbound. You can see that it's more than just that First Blood bounty that the Tartarus Titans are up now. 1,000 gold in the lead for the Chaos side team. Keep your eyes on Scream, though. Level 5 now on this Thor. Where will that first dunk go?
That's where the question is. Normally we've seen in years of past, you'll walk into the Fire Giant pit, ult, dunk on solo, or walk into the Gold Fury pit, ult, dunk on duo. That opportunity still exists, although they do get a lot more aggressive now than they used to, so you have to be a little more careful around the actual pits themselves, probably not going in. So I'm anxiously awaiting it. Scream also might just chill for a little while, right? Like, it feels as though the aggression early on, despite the last 2 games having early leads for the Scarabs, hasn't necessarily paid off for them in the long run. So maybe they're going to wait a little bit, try to just pick the smart ones as opposed to forcing fights to happen. And that's going to be moments. I mean, Paul can get away. Cyclone Spin can dash away if the wall doesn't come out. So you might be able to get beads. But I think Scream might just be patient with this one just because of the fact that it's going to be a little more difficult as a 2v2 or even a 3v2 to really turn things into a much larger fight just off his ult.
Fight for the left side Serpent camp will go the way of the Tartarus Titans, so that's one offering camp on the enemy side of the map they'll be able to claim for themselves. However, the ones at the mid camps did go the way of the Solar Scarabs. They'll claim 2 of those offerings to start stacking up that obelisk, which has become, not going to say a lot less impactful, but we're not seeing the traditional, back at SPL Plains, it was the quote of the week for that entire event was int for obelisk, int for the flowers. We're not seeing that anymore. Now with all the changes that have been made to it, takes longer to steal them. You take more damage stealing them. They're worth a little bit less in gold. So we're not seeing that same level of priority that we saw even barely even a month ago.
Yeah, but realistically, I think that's, one, a little more helpful for the support players. Inbound's, he's getting killed anyway.
Well, there's no help for Inbound here. He's all by himself. Was level 5, but didn't get an opportunity to get to that descent into madness. I mean, even having that level 5 available to him, that CC chain out of the Titans was just gross.
I mean, it's good control And that's what they're fighting against, J-Mac. I mean, that's the problem that they're going to have to deal with consistently throughout this game. You can talk about how, Layers' execute won't be online most of the time. Fair. His stun, well, it's got a low enough cooldown that it's going to be there during team fights. Dark Portal, you're right, not going to be there a lot. Atlas 2, it's going to be existing throughout a majority of this. A lot of control in terms of scooping people up, holding them down, and you've got Cyclone on Izanami. I think that Izanami's going to be able to hit a lot harder, maybe not as hard as a Freya did towards the end of the last game, but she'll be able to hit harder in the mid-game. And so realistically, Cyclone Swid's going to be able to get a little more active a lot quicker, and so the duo lane is deadly. Paul's on Tiamat, which is one of his best gods, which granted isn't saying much. He's got like 10 of them. So I think realistically you've got 3 that are going to show up in that lane, plus Layers, 4, that realistically, I have said that way too many times, are going to just destroy you, is the only way I can word it. They're going to pick you up and kill you a lot.
Just want to hope that too many of you don't get picked up at one time by Aurora like we saw at the tail end
that
of
was
game number 2.
gross.
Man, I passed by him in the hall, and he's like, man, I can't believe I got both of their carries with that pull. That was just kind of troll of them here. But Interceptor now picked up
to
by
defend
the support.
I think that your carries should never be. That cone is so small.
The pickup portion.
Cone is so small.
And that's the thing about the Atlas. You see the double section of the cone, the outer portion.
It'll just pull you towards him.
That little bitty cone in the front, though, that's what picks him up. And the fact that both the carries were in that tiny little triangle to get picked up, it's just absolutely wild. A best case scenario for Aurora here. SOT now on the receiving end of this clean, and he's seeing just why this Assassin solo has been so potent this weekend here. Soul Leader online for Scary D and over halfway stacked up. Meanwhile, SOT going for a stone-cutting sword, kind of double-dipping into his passive out here.
And honestly, I like this. I mean, it's an item that fits just really well with Nemesis. I mean, like you highlighted, kind of fits with the passive, and kind of double dips on it. But when you're looking at the team they're going up against, and specifically what is Nemesis good at and what has she been picked at historically, she's the Cthulhu killer. This is a build and a god that in this circumstance is going to make Bobby's life a living hell in about 5 minutes, although he's 0-2-0 and hasn't really been able to get what he would want out of this duel lane. So maybe it's already halfway there.
Cyclone makes it back to the tier 1, but now he has backup on this left side of the map. SOT almost goes down. A nice shield immediately after, but Scary D will find the kill.
Tower.
Even through that slice and dice, dunked down by Scream on the left-hand side. Cyclone can't find a path out. Scream picks the kill to make it now 2 for the Solar Scarabs, and Aurora is boxing up against Inbound in this Descent to Madness, but Inbound cannot find a way out of the jungle. The body blocks out of Aurora are perfect to lock him down.
Still favorable trade. Scarabs able to pick up a couple of kills there. It's a solo kill on right for Scary D that makes a big difference for him. You can see his Soul Leader already almost stacked up, so he's feeling pretty good and I think confident in himself in his laning phase. But it is going to be how this morphs into team play, I think, a little bit later. Scream gets a good dunk, but now he's isolated. Unless Barana can do something big here, they will be able to. Enough damage, get Scream out of there. But you get to see where this Thor dynamic comes in. Good CC, good ult, good stun, good damage, and then he has to get out of there. Inbound's the only one who ends up dying, so still worthwhile by a large margin. But the Scarabs do need to be aware of how the Titans are going to form when they do get, this mid-game, late-game composition online.
And that mid-late is really where Paul specifically on this Tiamat usually always shines. We've been seeing lower damage numbers from the mid laner on the Titans for such a long time, and then we get to these 30-minute games, and all of a sudden he went from being currently where he's at third lowest damage in the game to being number 1 in the game by like 15 or 20,000 player damage. So keep your eyes on Paul. Going for this double flat pin start, not the traditional, more cooldown-oriented style that we used to see out of these Tiamats.
Not a lot of gold that's been separating a lot of these teams either. But yeah, like you said, not a lot of immediate cooldown-oriented play coming from Paul, and they're mostly even in mid, and actually having the Morrigan go for the Chronos Pendant theoretically means Baronic can get a little more hands-on early in. But that is, good anti-heal coming out online early from Paul, as well as specifically flat pin available online early on from Paul. Up into a Thor, up into Inbound. I think this is going to open up Paul for a little bit more damage, make sure that he can shut down probably the Thor more often, although Inbound, again, 0 and 3 is getting caught out a little bit. But I'm having, flashbacks. I feel like the Scarabs have done things like this before. Inbound will end up, he'll go 0 and 3 to 0 and 5 to 0 and 7. but he's the only deaths on the team, and everybody else gets to do whatever they want because all of the focus keeps going into the support. And so this Cthulhu is pulling a lot of attention, and maybe intentionally going to be trying to make sure that everyone's focusing on him so his teammates can do whatever.
Scream will not make it out. Execute by Layers is good, and now it's inbound, surrounded by 3. Still has that ultimate if he needs it, and he might need it here. Big damage out of Paul. Will go into the quadrupedal stance, and knock up, and a consume after Layers. We'll swipe that one away. Baronic in the ultimate cannot get away from Layers. It's a triple kill out of the jungler for the Titans.
4-0-1, just a great setup for him. I mean, immediately catching out Scream there and setting themselves up for success inbound. Unfortunately, just had to prolong and stay in that fight. There was no way for him to escape, and Baronic, he wasn't really in the fight. He just got chased down, and that opens up so many opportunities, J-Mac. A Gold Fury that's wide open for them. Stewart had just back, so there's not even like the chances of the snipes coming down to steal this unless they take a awfully long time clearing. Yeah, no, they got the damage to be able to take that one away. And so a lot of these golden opportunities, these side lanes where maybe things either at left weren't going well or in right where they were going incredibly well, don't really mean anything if the jungler over here is going to be popping off.
4-0 to start this one out for Layers on the side of the Titans. SOT's been bullied time and time again by Scary D over, at least in this game, in this lane. But Scream falling a little bit behind, Baronic a tad bit behind in that mid lane. That's where some of that XP is being made up by the Titans. You see this roughly 2,000 gold lead out. Dark Portal used by Cyclone just off the mark though, but Stewart did use the Aegis anticipating that it was going to hit him.
Yeah, I think that is, again, little things that make a big difference. That Aegis that's a long cooldown, J-Mac, and that means you have a lot more opportunities. Solar Patrol has to be careful, though.
Big shield though. SOT heals up a lot of that damage, and Aurora is back here to turn this fight around. Scary D can't find the last hit. The tremble from Aurora right after. SOT squeaks his way on out, and Scary D has got to run because now Paul has shown up from the mid lane. And while SOT makes it out, Scary D should as well, unless Aurora can turn this around by himself.
Well, he's going to be able to at least get the grab. Body blocks here could be big. They don't want to dive the tier 2. Well, it's 13 minutes. I understand not wanting to dive the tier 2. But you had the team on. You could have gone for the kill, maybe gone 1-for-1. How nuts is it? Layers, you got to give me some time, man. Did you see the play Sot just made snipes raining down from above?
But it's not going to be what gets the kill. It's going to be Baronic instead. Cyclone spin under fire by inbound under that tier 1 tower, but Cyclone should be fine. Not the same for Layers. He goes down, as does their tier 1 tower on this left-hand side. Solar Scarabs able to pick up something after the drop kill over on the right side of the map.
Honestly, yeah, that's what I want to talk about, right? Solar Patrol living as long as Sot did in the way and the fashion that Sot did. I mean, he was dead to rights. I don't think I've ever seen a Nemesis shield get that much healing off of it. Now Scream's in a little bit of trouble in mid. No, Paul's not going to be able to get it. So there's the trade-off, right? Look, one drop kill for one dropped kill. Although Paul might fall.
Aegis helps him out from the Scream. Scary D's going to need that ult and some more basics to get the kill. Back blast out of Paul. Aurora doesn't get the pickup this time in. Scary D still under the tower. Stun will hold down Scary D inside that tier 1 tower. But at the end, it is Baronic who picks up the kill on the mid laner. Paul goes down, and inbound with the Mire will zone away to allow Scary D to make his escape path out. But can the same be said for Baronic? Now the enemy solo is right back into the mid lane. SOT will take down Baronic.
Scary D's right there. Scream comes dunking down from above. They get the kill on the Layers like it's nothing, and Sot's stunned out.
SOT, will he make it out this time? Slice and Dice will slow down the enemy team. Even Cyclone is falling low on the tail end. No, Scream will teleport in with the hammer and pick up the double for the Scarabs.
That is what we mean. If we ever say the word overzealous, that's what it is. You have a little bit of a lead, you try to do a little too much with it, and all of a sudden it all falls apart. What was 4-0 for Layers is now 4-2. Hasn't been able to do as much. A narrow escape from Solar Patrol ends up being a daring, dashing escape attempt over there in mid. And unfortunately, again, not able to get it. Good play from Scream to come dunking down in there. Good damage from Baronic. But I'm still just flabbergasted how aggressive Scary D gets in that. To get the kill, stay alive, dash away. Good peel from Bobby to throw down the Mire between that. Slow down Aurora. And then Scary D was just able to kind of kite around with Scream and keep things going for themselves. It's a beautiful fight from the Scarabs.
An absolutely wild Game 3 coming out of both of these two teams. We're only 15 minutes in, Gore. The gold, 1,300 now towards the Solar Scarabs. 4K XP, though, probably the more stifling number between them. Wall is good. Aurora taking a lot of damage. The wall fades away, and he's still got that kinetic charge to get himself on out. Aurora makes that for now, but Scream up in the sky. The target will be Layers. The stun is good. The spin and the damage from Stewart is enough to take down the jungler. Layers goes down. Aurora barely makes it out of that one. Will have to walk away. Paul under fire in the tier 1, but he will be good, even if these snipes from Stewart are able to connect, and they are not.
Ooh, that third
never
shot,
mind.
it does half of what Paul had left. Doesn't seem to be enough. And yeah, Inbound's not going to get there in order to stop the back from Paul. That being said, map play is the name of the game right now. I mean, kills, realistically, the Scarabs are only down by 1, so it doesn't even make that big a difference. But JMac, they've taken every single tier 1. I mean, the Scarabs have been doing a better job of being able to get aggressive and open up the map for themselves. Did they lose the only Fury that has been taken? Yes. But I think they're in a much better position now to not only fight into the Gold Fury, but really just dictate where the Titans are allowed. I mean, you can't step as far forward as Aurora is on this map without feeling very confident in your capabilities as a team and as a grouping, because otherwise you don't have anywhere to run as a safe haven.
Aurora trying to zone away while the rest of the team does the primal, but vision was there for the Scarabs the entire time. The Mire, is it enough to steal through the dash? No. Tartarus Titans do get the Primal Fury, but Inbound is the one who's too low, and the execute out of Layers will make sure that Inbound has no escape path out. And the Tartarus Titans pick up 1 plus the Fury.
And this is a good spot to be in. Being able to get the Fury helps alleviate, I think, a lot of the pressure that the Scarabs have applied to the Titans. Again, a lot of it's in form of map control, but if they get a kill here, that's a big opener.
Boronic thrown back, the beads
Good
a little bit
blocks.
too late, but a dunk in by Scream finds 2. Not enough to save Boronic, and definitely not enough to save himself. Dark Portal will be good against Scary D. Stewart finds 1, snipes in the sky, won't find Cyclone. Scary D being chased by SOT and taken down. It's a double for the solo.
There's a health threshold. He runs up to the wall. He's looking for safety, but you have to have so much in order to get in. And unfortunate for him, he's a little too low when he runs into that. And it just ends up looking, well, mighty appetizing for Solar Ritual. Now Inbound's just...
You just got back Inbound. What are you doing under the tier 2? Why are you going up by yourself? Stewart is there to help, but Paul will find the shot with a damage right after. One more gives Paul the double, and the Deicide for the Titans plus a tier 2.
But I don't know. Look, I see a couple of resets, and I think you back off and run directly to fire. I don't know. 10 seconds left on Scary. Scream just respawned. Boronic's back. I think you can still run to the FG pit. You've got plenty of time. I mean, look, Stewart's cooldown is so long. But you are going to have to take some sort of engagement. Scream's going to have ult. Boronic has ult. Scary D, who can go into the walls, also has ult. So it's not a free objective for you over here. It is something you can kick off, cause a lot of trouble, put the Scarabs into fear. And this is good bad from Scream. Great, because now he gets visual and he can see that they're starting it up, or at least they are now in the Fire Giant pit. Unfortunate, because now he doesn't have his ult to dunk in.
Scary D is here. It's the double assassins out of the Solar Scarabs to try and stop this Fire Giant pull. But a lot of damage onto those 2 assassins already from the Tartarus Titans. The Minotaur will find Scary D. This time, he does have enough health to get through the wall, but Boronic does not have enough health to survive against SOT and Layers. Inbound up into Descent into Madness, looking for Layers, misses the knockup, gets the swipe after, but SOT is batting away at his health bar. Layers is so low, will go down, so Inbound manages to find 1. The question is, can Inbound find a way out of this team fight? The answer to that question is absolutely not.
2 for 1, Layers still gone for 40 seconds, so both players on the Scarabs that have died will be respawning before Layers gets back onto the map. If they can find 1 more pick, it looked like they were looking for one, they'd be able to go for a pretty free Fire Giant. But now it's, again, that tumultuous situation to be in where, do you have the numbers advantage? Yeah. Do you have the damage advantage? Yeah. Is it worth the risk? Probably not. Not right now. Not immediately, right? Especially map state. They got a lot of towers here from the Titans that they knocked down. They've been winning the fights. No reason to go 50-50 on an FG, right? Wait until you're back full strength. Bring Layers back into it. Get a couple of picks. You've burned a lot of ults. And so you're going to be able to take a fight around the FG pit pretty heftily over the Scarabs if they start up soon.
Tier 1 tower left side does end up going down to minions. A tier 2 or a tier 1 on right just earlier on. Plus, both towers in the mid after that one team fight by the Titans. So where they were down 3 towers to 6, they've now taken the lead as far as tower count goes. Only 2 left standing on the side of the Solar Scarabs. Fire Giant started up by the Titans, only inbound up front to try and slow this one down. Scream doesn't have that ult to try and get to the sky. Inbound doesn't have the health to get out of this fight. He's the first one gone. Scary D at half health, but look at Paul all by himself in the backline. SOT joins in. Paul finds the double. Scream goes down, making a triple for Paul. Can he find the quad? Yes, he will. Give it to him. Paul quad. Titans D aside, and that should be game.
Yeah, run down the mid, take the Phoenix. You've got 20 seconds on the clock before inbound is back. Just a beautiful fight from the Titans there. And of course, a lot of damage from Paul. 7, 1, and 5. Good plays throughout the game, of course, from Layers. I'm going to shout out Aurora again, dude. The CC from this Atlas has just been nuts. It's been so solid for their team, and it's really set up these damage dealers, the rest of the carries, to just kind of coast back. Paul does a lot of work throughout there, but it's off the back, I think, of the Titan.
Tartarus Titans, an impressive performance here in this semifinal matchup. And Gormizer, we get a rematch.
We get a rematch.
We get a World's Finals rematch between the Leviathans and the Titans now.
So today was the semis rematch.
Correct.
Third, fourth place match tomorrow is going to be a quarters rematch, and we get a finals rematch. We're gonna be coming back. It's fun.
It's a pretty nice little run here coming through. So 3 of our World Championship matchups have now made their way through here. Impressive play nonetheless, though. Tartarus Titans with a 3-0 performance. I think a lot of it can be said here to Aurora on this Atlas play. He's got, now 5 games in a row that he's gotten to play this guy, and all 5
and I like
looking
it. Keep
pretty
it coming.
good. Good damage from him, good carries from him, and good carries on the Titans bring them to 3-0. We'll take it to the desk right after to close out our day.
Was something you were screaming about, but I closed my ears cause I don't want to hear it anymore. God, it's always something about me, never something about you, always something about me, only me. What's up with that? What's up with that? Have you ever asked yourself, what's up with that? Oh baby, why won't you take a good look at yourself and stop blaming me when I just want to be with you? You, my love. wanna be with you. I always wanna be with you, my love. Babe, I got a lonely heart, and I don't wanna be apart. I just wanna be with you, my love. Oh, oh, oh.
Game 3, a little bit more convincing for the Tartarus Titans in another undefeated set for the runner-ups of the Season 8 Smite World Championship. Punch their tickets on, and they move on to face the Atlantis Leviathans in the finals of the SPL Season 9 kickoff tomorrow. A great showing from the Tartarus Titans. Scarabs had a great set yesterday, fall a little bit short here in this one. And in Game 3, felt like the Titans were most in control out of any single individual game this set. Trailing with me one final time to break down what we saw. And again, as with all of the other games in this set, the other two games,
Yep.
Little pushback early on in this game from the Scarabs, but this time felt much more under control.
Yeah.
By the Tartarus Titans. Felt like a matter of time before the mid lane started to heat up. Layers was really putting on a good performance. And this one just felt like kind of cleaning up the mess for the Tartarus Titans.
Yeah, I would say so. I think Scream found little success, and then that was pretty much it. It was just little bursts of Anvil of Dawns, hitting some nice rotations. Besides that, pretty dominant performance from the Tartarus Titans. Obviously, this Achilles pick, you get some crazy pressure, lots of high health targets. These executes were coming in pretty clutch against the Scarabs. Obviously, the Cthulhu, anytime he's going to get some big HP, the executes are going to be pretty meaty there. So Layers having a great performance, obviously, on this Achilles jungle.
Yeah, Achilles looked fantastic. I haven't asked Layers about it. Layers is going to be the post-game interview. I wonder if at some point you get annoyed, like he probably wants to be playing these top-tier assassins, wants to be playing the Nems, the Kleednos, just because that's what you play in the jungle, but he's not allowed to because Sot keeps getting these picks. So I'm curious if, jokingly, of course, there's any back and forth in picks and bans who gets to play these styles of picks. And Paul does Paul things in this set, right? I mean, in all 3 games, Paul eats at least 4 bans and then was saving his pick for last. So 4 or 5 picks at least taken away. At most, we saw 7 mages taken away before Paul got his pick. And it still feels like Trelly, just kind of regardless, whether it's a Tiamat, whether it's a Hell, no matter what, Paul is going to get a pick that he looks good on. 7-1-5 with a quad to end the game. Titans just felt a little bit cleaner here today. You know, I know that this was sort of an exhibition week, and the Scarabs showed up, new solo laner, showed us some of what they were made of. Even outside of that, I think the Titans just looked like a cleaner team.
Yeah, absolutely. Aurora on this Atlas was able to pretty much control the pace of the game wherever he was. Paul, can't harp on him enough. Paul does Paul things, as you said, does crazy damage. He's going to play very safely. Besides that Hell game, didn't really drop too many deaths at all this set. The whole team just looked great as a unit.
Yeah, a lot of scrapping here in a set like this, and one of the main team members doing that scrapping, Layers in the jungle for the Tartarus Titans. He is with me now for the post-game interview after the 3-0 win up against the Solar Scarabs. Layers, congrats on the 3-0 over the Scarabs. I have a couple different guys whose mentality I want to check here. Aurora feels like has been playing this Atlas in every single game. Is that by choice of Aurora, or is he just so good on it that the team is kind of forcing him to get that pick every time?
His whole mindset is like, I'm going to play it until they ban it. So, like, he's just slamming it and slamming it because we're not, like, really trying to give away anything right now because this doesn't really matter as much. I mean, it's still important to show up and do our job and play.
Doesn't count for standings, things like that,
Yeah, it doesn't count for anything really much. But, yeah, that's his whole mindset. It's just like, I'm just going to keep slamming it. So.
And they never banned it away.
Yeah.
Another player, Paul is kind of on the exact opposite side of that, where it feels like every single game Paul is getting banned out, like at least 4 bans. One game he gets 5 bans, and then 2 mage picks for the Scarabs before Paul gets his pick. Yesterday he was kind of jokingly tilted about being focused, I think. Does he ever get frustrated in picks and bans, eating like 5, 6 bans sometimes before he gets to make his pick?
I don't really think he gets frustrated. He just like laughs at it, I think, a little bit. He just thinks it's troll because like they'll ban like 5 gods. Like they banned Morgan. He's like, I don't even play Morgan. And then they leave up Tiamat on the bottom like 2. So it's like it's not really even worth it in my opinion because he just plays everything. So it's just like kind of troll to invest that much into him.
Yeah, I couldn't believe. I think it was game 2. There were 5 bans and then 2 mage picks. Then he got hell anyway by the end of it, which is a great pick for him. Talk to me about your mentality because SOT comes into this team. We know Sot likes playing the assassin-y style picks in solo. Do you wish that you could be the one playing the Nems and the Cleanas and things like that, or are you happy to let Sot get those picks?
I'm open to flex. I'll be like, yo, like I'll pick we could pick Nem top 2 to flex, but it's not really a flex ever. It's always for him usually.
Right.
I don't really mind if he wants to play. I'll play whatever for the team. So if he wants to play those assassins, I'll just fill in and play like Achilles. But I didn't really build tanky though.
Sure.
So
Yeah, well, you
doesn't really
have
matter.
some fun
I'm
stuff.
just gonna let him play what he wants to play, and then I'll just do my thing. What's best for the team. So.
Well, it's a good mindset, Layers. 3-0 for you guys. Looking forward to watching your matchup tomorrow.
Thank you.
Congrats to the Tartarus Titans. Another undefeated set for them today. On the back end of a 2-0 set win there yesterday. I love that the answer about, like, what's Paul's mentality? He gets banned out so much. The scariest answer is that he laughs about it. You know what I mean? Like, if that's me and I'm eating, like, constant bans, I'm probably getting a little tilted. The fact that Paul's just like, yeah, whatever. I have something to play. I think speaks volumes to his confidence.
I think it feeds his confidence a little bit there when he eats all those bans because it doesn't shake his performance. Obviously, his results speak for themselves. He's not playing any worse on these gods that you're not banning away, and maybe the gods that you did ban away, maybe he would have performed a little bit worse in that regard. But he doesn't miss. That man doesn't miss.
Yeah, and again, as we move through this bracket, we get a look back at what we've already seen. A lot of theory crafting going on this week. A lot of testing things out in picks and bans, so I don't put way too much weight on the Scarab strategy in picks and bans for this set on what we might see moving forward to Season 9. If nothing else, they've learned throwing 5 bans at Paul isn't going to be something that works out because, as you see in the second semifinal, they're 3-0 to the Tartarus Titans, 3-0 to the Atlantis Leviathans, and a World's Finals rematch in the SPL Kickoff tournament here this year in Season 9. That means Jade Dragons versus Solar Scarabs will be our 3rd/4th place matchup. 11 a.m. is when we will have the 3rd/4th place matchup between the Jade Dragons and the Solar Scarabs. And then 1:30 p.m., Atlantis Leviathans going up against the Tartarus Titans in the finals. But Dave, what happens in between those 2 sets? I've got a very exciting answer. We're going to be not previewing, we will be showing the second part of our Worlds documentary tomorrow in between the 3rd/4th place matchup and the finals matchup of this kickoff tournament. And if you haven't caught the first part, make sure to go back and check that out. It is a really awesome piece that our video team has been putting together. Behind-the-scenes look at comms of the teams during the big moments during the Smite World Championship in Season 8, picks and bans moments, between game moments. It's a really unique look behind the scenes of the teams and how their communication is in-game, out-of-game, between game, really start to finish. So part 2 of that documentary will be shown tomorrow between our 3rd and 4th place matchup and our finals matchup. All of that and more starts at 11 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow right here on twitch.tv/Smike. On behalf of myself, Trelly Rayleigh, all the other casters, everyone back in production, thanks for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.